All the best. All the best.
Okay, yeah. It's already live stream.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Prema.
All right. Thanks. Alvin? The screen and the music, and we will start in 10 minutes. Thank you. Have fun, everyone.
Good day and a warm welcome to all who have joined us in our virtual event. We will commence shortly. We would sincerely appreciate it if you could keep the microphone muted throughout the speeches and presentations to avoid any sound interruption. Thank you so much for your patience.
Koski.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all who have joined us across the globe. A warm welcome to our virtual event in conjunction with International Mother Language Day 2022 themed Language in the Time of the COVID-19 Pandemic, a second consecutive year of collaboration between Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Talis University, Malaysia, and Bangladesh High Commission, Malaysia. International Mother Language Day has been observed every year since 21st February 2000 to promote linguistic and cultural diversity and multilingualism. As much as the proclamation of 21st February as International Mother Language Day recognizes the unprecedented sacrifice made by the Bangladesh for the cause of mother language on 21st February 1952, it also brings up the importance of thousands of mother native languages and people's efforts worldwide in upholding respective linguistic heritage. This day is also a reminder of how languages can bring people together, motivate them to go on despite thousands of hindrances, and inspire people even in the harshest of times. Our two-day event highlights how languages and art forms are constantly evolving and impacted in the shadow of the pandemic.
We are indeed very honored to have with us today His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Ghulam Sarwar, Bangladesh High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Malaysia, Mr. Muhammad Khorshid Khastagir, Minister and Deputy High Commissioner, Bangladesh High Commission, Malaysia, Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, Department of International Relations and Director, Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, Professor Dr. Nithyanandan Ariraghavan, Executive Dean, Faculty of Social Science and Laser Management, Taylor's University, Malaysia, and Associate Professor Dr. Anurita Das Gupta, Head of School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, Malaysia.
We are also privileged to have dignitary speeches from His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Her Excellency Ms. Yamna Mamun, Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage of Maldives, His Excellency Mr. Shigeru Oyagi, Director, UNESCO Bangkok, Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, and His Excellency Dr. Rashid Mustafa Salwa, UNICEF Representative to Malaysia and Special Representative to Brunei Darussalam. We are also honored to have Professor Dr. Wan Zawawi Ibrahim, Adjunct Professor, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, Malaysia, who is our keynote speaker for today's event.
We are also delighted to have with us as our discussant, Professor Dr. Amina Mohsen, Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, Professor Dr. Joseph Gonzalez, Head of Academic Studies and Postgraduate Program Leader in Dance, Hong Kong Academy for Performing Arts, Hong Kong, Dr. Nanghatai Rangpon Samrit, Associate Professor, Department of Western Languages, Faculty of Arts, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, Ms. Preeta Samarasan, author of Evening is the Whole Day and the Race Ladder, France, Ms. Shamini Flint, author of her Inspector Singh Investigates, 10, and Suzuki Files, Singapore, and Dr. Kalai Vani Rajandram, Senior Lecturer, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, Malaysia. She is the moderator for the panel discussion session. We are indeed honored and fortunate to have them here with us to share their expertise and experiences in today's meeting. My name is Hazira Khanam. I'm a research analyst from Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka.
And my name is Judith Milsimaler, a lecturer from the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Taylor's University, and we will be your host for today. Before we continue with this session, we would just like to highlight a few housekeeping announcements. We would appreciate it if you could keep the microphone muted throughout the speeches and presentations to avoid any sound interruption. This session is recorded and shared live through Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, and Bangladesh High Commission Facebook pages. There will be a Q&A session towards the end of this event. You may type in your questions and comments in the chat box during that time, and our moderator will put forward to the panelists. We will be taking a virtual group picture after His Excellency Mr. Rashid Mustafa Sawa's session. Thank you.
To start us off, we'll watch a beautiful rendition of Amar Bhaiyer Rokte Rangano titled Ekushe 21 Anthem, performed by Oikotan of University of Dhaka, and a Mala rendition of the song from Dr. Muhammad Said Shafi, Program Director for Bachelor of Performing Arts, Taylor's University. This rendition honors the martyrs of the language movement of Bangladesh. Let's watch the video.
Ekushe or 21st February and since 2000, the International Mother Language Day is a melancholic and somber occasion for every Bangladeshi. The day commemorates the events of 21 February 1952, 8 Falgun 1359 in the Bangla calendar, when a number of students campaigning for the recognition of Bangla as one of the state languages of Pakistan were brutally killed by the police. The day is observed as Shohid Dibosh or Martyrs' Day in Bangladesh. The language movement began when the question of a state language became a major concern for the newly formed state of Pakistan. The central leaders and the Urdu-speaking intellectuals of Pakistan decided that Urdu would be the sole state language, despite the language of the majority being Bangla. The movement reached its climax on 21 February 1952, when students defied Section 144 to uphold the dignity of their beloved mother tongue. The police fired upon the procession gathered at the Arts Faculty of the University of Dhaka, killing Abul Borkot, Rafiquddin Ahmed, and Abdul Jabbar on that day, while fatally injuring Abdus Salam, who died later. All over the country, people protested spontaneously by breaking curfews. The events ended up in the adoption of Bangla as one of the state languages of Pakistan in 1954. Later, Ekushe played a significant role in coalescing the Bengali identity and served as a precursor for the 1971 War of Independence. The UNESCO adopted a resolution on 17 November 1999 proclaiming 21 February as the International Mother Language Day, and the whole world has been observing this day since 2000. This gesture is considered to be an utmost honor bestowed by the international community on the language movement of Bangladesh. The languages of the world are at the very heart of UNESCO's objectives, as they are the most powerful instruments for preserving and developing the tangible and intangible heritage of nations and nationalities. The recognition of International Mother Language Day encourages linguistic diversity and multilingual education. It inspires international solidarity based on understanding, tolerance, and dialogue. Throughout 21 February, people from all walks of life visit the Shohid Minar barefoot to pay tribute to those who gave their lives for Bangla, singing the mournful notes of the elegy, Amar Bhaiyer Rokte Rangano 21 February, Ami ki bhulite pari? Can I forget 21 February, reddened with the blood of my brothers? Amar Bhaiyer Rokte Rangano was written by Abdul Gaffar Choudhury and was given its music score first by Abdul Latif and finally by Altaf Mahmud. It has now become not only a song to be rendered during the annual observance of February 21, but also a song that has become universal, a symbol of inspiration for people struggling to establish their national rights. Oikotan Choir and Dr. Said Shafi have come together and performed this song again with such fervor only for this particular event. Let us hear the Bangla rendition of the song from Oikotan and the Malay rendition from Dr. Said Shafi, and offer our solemn respect to the martyred spirits.
Saudara kami terkorban pertumpahan darah 21 Februari, hari yang kami tak lupakan. Tangisan ibu dan kakak untuk hari ini, hari yang penuh berarti. Sejarah yang kami tak lupakan. Mengalirlah jasamu yang dikenang di bulan Februari, negara yang dicintai. Bangkitlah semua, teruskan berjuang, hidupkanlah Februari, hari yang kami tak lupakan. Bangun semua, teguhkanlah jiwa di bulan Februari. Bangkit dan terus berlari. Saudara kami terkorban pertumpahan darah 21 Februari, hari yang kami tak lupakan. Tangisan ibu dan kakak untuk hari ini, hari yang penuh berarti. Sejarah yang kami tak lupakan.
That was truly a meaningful rendition. Now, to capture the essence and history of International Mother Language, Bangladesh High Commission, Kuala Lumpur, has prepared a video presentation for us. this evening, we are privileged to have His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Ghulam Sawar from Bangladesh High Commission Malaysia with us. His Excellency, in his distinguished diplomatic career, has served in Bangladesh missions in Yangon, Kuala Lumpur, Kathmandu, Washington, D.C., and Jeddah. Prior to his present assignment, he served as Ambassador of Bangladesh to Sweden, with concurrently accredited to Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. Without further ado, I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Ghulam Sawar to deliver his welcome address.
You are muted. Your Excellency, you are muted.
Your Excellency, you're muted.
You are still muted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was actually the host who kept me muted. I tried, but I couldn't. Anyway, so Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, Director of Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka. Professor Dr. Nitiyathan Ari Raghavan, Executive Dean, Faculty of Social Science and Leisure Management, Taylor University. Dr. Anindita, Head of School of Liberal Arts and Science, Taylor University. Excellencies, distinguished professors, panelists, dear audience, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to you all. It is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you to the event today to commemorate the International Mother Language Day 2022 in a collaborative way. I'm happy to know that the friendly countries like Malaysia, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Japan, Thailand, Russian Federation, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan are also participating in the event, being represented by the respective diplomatic missions in Kuala Lumpur. I extend my warm congratulations to all the people of different languages of the world, along with Bangla-speaking people through this virtual forum. In 1999, at the initiative of Bangladesh, the UNESCO General Assembly unanimously adopted a resolution proclaiming this day as International Mother Language Day. As much as the proclamation of 21st February as International Mother Language Day recognizes the unprecedented sacrifice made by the Bangladeshi for the cause of mother language on 21st February 1952, it also brings up the importance of thousands of native languages and people's efforts worldwide in upholding the respective linguistic heritages. This day is also a reminder of how language can bring people together, motivate them to go on despite thousands of hindrances, and inspire people even in the hardest of time. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to know that this year's theme is the language in the time of COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic is an unprecedented global crisis. During the onset of this pandemic, many terms and expressions had to be clarified so that the masses knew exactly what they mean. There is no denying that battling a crisis like this brought up a lot of cultural shift in society, and with the inability came several changes in the vernacular spheres. Avoiding phrases and languages that might seem obscure and might be open to interpretation was a paramount importance. A slight misunderstanding could make the difference between life and death. Messages regarding public health had to echo the urgency of the matter and while keeping the simplicity, cultural competency, and clarity and certainty intact. Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, the Great Language Movement of Bangladesh is a historically significant event in our national life. This movement aimed at establishing the right of our mother tongue and protection of self-identity and cultural heritage. Being a source of timeless inspiration, the immortal 21st February led us to a great extent toward towards achieving the right to self-determination that culminated into the War of Liberation in 1971 and achieved the independence under the charismatic leadership of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. I'm happy to inform that a multicultural performance art-based event is being organized today. I congratulate the organizers for such efforts to build cultural connectivity. The cultural connectivity of writers and intellectuals, peace activists, and creative fraternity, academicians, and opinion makers in the media and public domain will result in determining the ideas that will provide space in a manner in which cultural connectivity can play a major role in South and Southeast Asia towards greater understanding, peace, and prosperity. Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, we note with deep appreciation the fact that Malaysia is one of the best examples of multilingual and multicultural countries. Language and culture are the essence of Malaysian society. It has enabled the cultivation of unique social identities, which has greatly contributed to the social and economic prosperity of Malaysia, and thus placed her at a respectable position at the regional and global stage. In a way, the celebration of 21st February as International Mother Language Day, therefore, gives us a sense of pilgrimage to preserve the linguistic diversity. Our special thanks to Honorable Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Momin MP, Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage of Maldives, Her Excellency Madam Yumna Mamoon, and the representatives from UNESCO and UNICEF in Malaysia for kindly joining the event by delivering their video messages. I thank our co-organizers, the University of Dhaka and the Taylor University Malaysia, for joining hands with Bangladesh High Commission and arranging these fabulous events. I hope this collaboration among the partners organization will grow strength to strength in the days ahead. I again welcome the participants and audience to enjoy the 2 days event. Long live Bangladesh-Malaysia friendship. Thank you all.
Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Ghulam Sarwar, for setting the stage for our event today. We are delighted to have with us Professor Dr. Nithyanandan Ariraghavan to extend his welcome remarks. Professor Dr. Nithyanandan is the Executive Dean for Faculty of Social Sciences and Leisure Management, Taylor's University. He is overseeing 5 schools and institute and research centers. He is active in several international boards and is engaged in local and international consultancy and knowledge transfer projects, such as the development of Langkawi Tourism Academy and European Union projects. Professor Dr. Nithyanandan Ariraghavan, the platform is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Judith and Hazira. His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Ghulam Sarwar, High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Malaysia. His Excellency Mr. Shigeru Ayagi, Director, UNESCO Bangkok, Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education. His Excellency Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sarwar, UNICEF Representative to Malaysia and Special Representative to Brunei. Distinguished Representative from Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia. Professor Imtiaz Ahmad, Director, Center for Genocide Study, University of Dhaka, and a good friend of Taylor's University today. Associate Professor Dr. Anindita Das Gupta, Head of School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Ms. Prema Ponudurai, Head of Department, Liberal Arts and Humanities. Esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, colleagues from University of Dhaka, the High Commission of Bangladesh in Malaysia, and Taylor's University, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my pleasure to wish all of you a very happy and meaningful celebration of International Mother Language Day this evening. Mother language, or what we refer to in our Malay language as Bahasa Ibunda, is an intrinsic part of our identities and at the very center of our entire being. In fact, it is the soul of life itself. In the eloquent words of Nelson Mandela, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his mother language, that goes to his heart. Ladies and gentlemen, as global citizens, we are all speaking global languages that reach out across geographies and cultures that span the length and breadth of the world map. Due to globalization processes, our local languages are increasingly falling under threat of disappearing altogether. When languages fade, so does the world's richest tapestry of cultural diversity, along with traditions, memory, indigenous knowledge and practices, storytelling, folklore, and the arts are all lost. The doors to our past gradually closes, and the memories of our ancestors are no longer passed down to our young. In the hustle and bustle of our globalized lives, there's very little time for us to reflect on the beauty and grace of the language that makes us unique. Thus, I would like to extend my heartiest congratulations to the Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, the High Commission of Bangladesh in Malaysia, and the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, Malaysia, for the second consecutive year of successful collaboration on this historic occasion, the International Mother Language Day, a day on which we remember and celebrate our mother tongue. I understand that there are 9 countries joining us in this 2-day global celebration. Throughout these 2 days, we will witness the mesmerizing power of an array of languages which will connect us across distances in time and space, create within us a sense of belonging and harmony, and allow us to unravel the treasure of one another's languages. The diversity of language brings the diversity of thought, and this is one of the North Stars of Taylor's University, Malaysia. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, for taking the time to share with us his speech via video recording, despite his busy schedule. In addition, I would like to also thank the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Malaysia, for supporting this event. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to understand the context and history of International Mother Language Day and why our collaboration today is pivotal in promoting the preservation and protection of all languages. I'm sure with all the videos that you have watched, you have a much better understanding. However, allow me to share a little bit. The International Mother Language Day has been observed every year since 21st February 2000 to promote linguistic and cultural diversity and multilingualism. The move to celebrate International Mother Language Day came from none other than Bangladesh. Bangladesh attachment to this day takes us back to 21st of February 1952. In 1999, at the initiative of Bangladesh, the UNESCO General Assembly unanimously adopted a resolution proclaiming this day as International Mother Language Day. Rightly so, Taylor's University's participation in today's event would bring great meaning for our friends and associates in Bangladesh, as well as our international students and staff members hailing from Bangladesh, as one of our largest group of international students at Taylor's University. We have about 400 Bangladeshi students pursuing tertiary education with us. Ladies and gentlemen, language is not simply an assortment of words, but an entity that connects an individual to her family, identity, culture, music, beliefs, and wisdom to the rest of the world. Thus, the theme of the 2022 International Mother Language Day, Language in the Time of COVID-19 Pandemic, recognizes that linguistic diversity is an integral part of ensuring a better future and must not be neglected, even in times of crisis. The linguist Ben Zimmer says that the pandemic has turned all of us into amateur epidemiologists, utilizing scientific terms such as super spreader, asymptomatic, social distancing, contact tracing, and etc. And I recently read in an article in the Scientific American Journal that the term quarantine, which is derived from a Renaissance era Italian word meaning a 40-day waiting period. It dates back centuries, but it took on a new life during this pandemic. In the last 2 years, in the silence of our homes, we have used language like never before through social media, TikTok videos, and WhatsApp messages. As we emerge from this pandemic, however, there's one word that we would like to forget, which is COVID. I look forward to re-entering a world where we will once again speak to one another freely in office corridors, seminar halls, at car parks, cafes, and bistros. As we stand at this moment in time between the old and the new world, there is no better time to deliberate the gains and losses in our languages in the past 2 years. I greatly look forward to listening to the distinguished panel of speakers this evening. Who will be joining us from different parts of the world, from Bangkok, Bangladesh, Thailand, Hong Kong, Singapore, France, and Malaysia. For this, I'm honored and proud of the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences under the leadership of Associate Professor Dr. Anindita Dasgupta for their collaboration with the Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and the Bangladesh High Commission in organizing the pandemic and language event. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to understand that language and multilingualism is essentially for the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. At the core of these programs, such as psychology, performing arts, and social sciences, the use of language plays a particular key role for all our students and as part of Taylor's graduate capabilities. I'm also pleased to welcome some of our very own Bachelor of Performing Arts students who will celebrate this significant day by showcasing their talents in a special performance. I believe that the upcoming tripartite agreement between the High Commission of Bangladesh in Malaysia, the University of Dhaka Center for Genocide Studies, and Taylor's University School of Liberal Arts and Sciences to formalize our relationship under a framework memorandum of understanding will encourage and inspire solidarity and understanding on cross-cultural exchange and expression, as well as scale up our commitment to multilingual education and close the gaps of inequality left behind by the pandemic. Thank you once again for being here today, and have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Nityanandan Ariragavan. Also here with us today to extend words of welcome is Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmad, Director, Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. He is also currently visiting professor at the Sergey's University, Beirut. He is the recipient of various awards and honors. He has co-authored, edited 26 books and 8 monographs. More than 120 research papers and scholarly articles have been published in leading journals and chapters in edited volumes. Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmad, the time is yours.
Thank you, Judith, for that intro. I'm humbled. His Excellency, Mr. Muhammad Kalam Sarwar, Bangladesh High Commissioner to Malaysia, Professor Raghavan, Excellencies, dignitaries, all the faculty members of Taylor's University, Dhaka University, and beyond, and all the students up there in the platform listening to this exciting kind of relationship that can only happen because of COVID-19 pandemic and technology. So there's a good side of pandemic. And I think this very meeting of both Taylor University, Bangladesh High Commission in Malaysia, and Dhaka University is quite unique in that respect. Now, good earth to all of you. Given the time zone, I'm not sure where you are. So good earth to all of you. When we started our journey a year back, we thought that by second year we could have it blended, that there could be in person and virtual, but then we tried our best at the last minute. I think a week back, the team decided to have it all virtual because the spike went up in Malaysia. And that's the reason we are back to the platform, but hopefully, as the speakers have already flagged, that hopefully next year we will be doing it blended so that we can have both the in-person and the virtual together. And that also tells you that that will be the future of what education is all about. Now, when we talk about languages, and the reason why we decided to have this particular topic, yes, 21st February Language Day started with, very mournful event, no doubt about it. And then it's now a celebration of languages and all the languages that one can imagine in the world. And the number, can go as high up to 10,000, some say even more. But keeping that in mind, I think this COVID-19 pandemic has made a difference to the understanding of language. The first one is language of the virus. This is something we need to learn. We had pandemic even earlier, but somehow our memory never goes, beyond, beyond our lifetime, sometime not even a year, and the poets have written time and again that our memory is so short that within 1 year, I think it was Nazim Hikmat, the Turkish poet, who wrote that in a year time, we forget everything. And we forgot the earlier pandemic that we had in the beginning of the 20th century, the so-called Spanish pandemic. But then this time, I think because of science and technology, we could communicate far better. Last time, as you know, it literally ended up from one war to another war, which was unfortunate. But this time we could communicate. Now, the language of the virus is important, and this is where I think disciplines would break. I don't think you can stay within on your own discipline to understand what pandemic is all about. We need to refocus our understanding, because the virus can live and can get reproduced only when they are tied up with some beings, some living beings. By themselves, they are dead. But the moment they connect themselves with the living beings, they become alive. And that's the language of the virus. So we need to understand the language of the virus in a very big way. And hopefully, the relationship that Taylor's University and Dhaka University and other universities, of course, can also join, will allow us to understand this language in a way where we'll be able to save lives. That's the important part. Unfortunately, you have seen the best of the universities, as you know, even, and bulk of them all are in the developed countries. Somehow all have failed miserably in understanding the language of the virus, and to some extent it was quite simple. You need to wear the mask, you need to wash your hands, and you need to keep a physical distance. That was the message or the language that the virus was telling everyone. But somehow humans, to change human behavior is very difficult. So that's one part of the language. The second part is the language of the state. That too failed us in many ways. It failed us even during the Spanish flu, but also this time, unfortunately, as you know, virus will mutate. That's what virus is all about. Virus will mutate even in future. The point is whether you can keep it at the level of epidemic, or whether you will allow an epidemic to become pandemic. That's the point. And unfortunately, even this one could have been kept in an epidemic position if there was a global cooperation. But the language of the state, unfortunately, was very different this time. And one of the reasons, and this is my personal opinion, is that we had very important major countries where we had very insular leaders, and that created a situation where there was not the cooperation that we required, in early 2020. If they had all met early in January, when the message was very clear from WHO that this is a deadly virus, we could have kept it at the epidemic level. I will also flag that even the United Nations, although we will have people from the UN to speak, The UN also miserably failed this time in bringing the leaders together. Now, one can understand, it's an intergovernmental agency, the United Nations can't do on its own, but still it looks like we need to rethink the international organizations in a very, very big way. So the language of the state was mainly insular. This tried to stop the borders, which really doesn't make sense because the virus would not understand borders. Virus don't understand the language of territories. That ought to be, flagged in a way where in the future, hopefully, we would be able to resolve this issue. And virus will mutate. It's not that it gets carried from an flight from Paris to Delhi. If that was the case, then back in the Spanish pandemic, so-called Spanish flu, there was no civil aviation, commercial civil aviation in those days, but still South Asia suffered, where millions died in South Asia without, even Australia had Spanish flu, infected, because that's what virus is all about. So language of the state is something that we need to work. And the final one is the language of the people. Now, this is where I see, the confidence and the resilience. And Center for Genocide Studies, we mapped and monitored with the support of UNDP, the social issues related to the pandemic from March onwards, March 2020. And one thing that really surprised me is the resilience of the people, enormously resilience, love for one another, to help each other. Yes, there are some dark stories. I will not leave out those. There has been certain stories where, people have left, some people abandoned and those things, but not so much. I can talk about Bangladesh more than other countries. I was quite impressed. And one of the reasons I think Bangladesh very quickly could recover, at least up until now, or did a little bit better because of the social resilience, enormous resilience. People literally thought that the economy would collapse, because one of the big part of the economy is, of course, the remittances, and people thought that would stop. But some of us, we were arguing that no, remittances would go up, because Bangladesh is working in the Middle East. Even if they have to go hunger, they would send money back home. They would not want their parents and their relatives to starve and die. And that resilience I was referring to because of the civilizational context. And that worked, in a way which gives us hope that the language of the people has been very different. And out of the language of the people is the collaboration that we have with Taylor's University. And because when we flagged, and I have to thank Mr. Kastagir, who came up with very early on for the collaboration. Even with the pandemic, he happened to be in Malaysia during the pandemic, was absolutely locked in, could not even go out. But then somehow, they say that during crisis, you become imaginative, you look for opportunities. And I guess Mr. Kastagir was looking for opportunity, and it worked, so well. And of course, Anindita has always been there. And so the language of the people, if the hope I see in this platform, the first time we had a little bit of it. Yes, it was 2 days, but look at this time, we already, it's only year 2, and we have 9 countries, as I heard, collaborating. And believe it or not, by 10th year, probably you have to make it a 1-week celebration, because you might end up getting 20 to 30 or 40 countries joining in this platform and doing it in a very different way. So please continue this journey. I think what you have started, and my thanks to Bangladesh High Commission in Malaysia for the collaboration, thinking out of the box. As you know, normally, academicians and the bureaucrats, they have different domains, but this is one domain where I think it worked, and it could be an example for other kind of collaboration between the academics and the bureaucrats around the world. So let me thank, and of course I have to thank Professor Raghavan and the whole team that he has, Anindita, Prema, so many people that I've already come to know at Taylor's University. I think let's continue this journey and hopefully we can make a difference to the world. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed, for your encouraging speech. Now, for our first opening address of the evening, we are honored to have His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen, Foreign Minister of Bangladesh. His Excellency has worked for various ministries of Bangladesh. He has also contributed as economic advisor at the Saudi Industrial Development Fund, served as the president of the UNICEF Executive Board at the international level, and was the vice president and acting president of the 67th United Nations General Assembly. He won the 2018 Bangladesh general election from Sylhet 1 constituency and became the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh in 2019. Welcome, His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen.
Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Mr. Shigeru Ayuagi, Director for UNESCO Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, Dr. Rashid Mahmood Sarwar, Country Representative, UNICEF Malaysia, Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, Director, Center for Genocide Studies, University of Dhaka, Professor Nitai Nathan Eri Raghavan, Executive Dean, Faculty of Sciences and Leisure Management, Taylor's University of Malaysia, Excellencies, distinguished panelists, and dear audience. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. At the very outset, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the organizers for arranging such an excellent cross-border multicultural program to commemorate International Mother Language Day 2022 in a collaborative way. I appreciate Bangladesh High Commission in Kuala Lumpur for joining with the Dhaka University and Taylor's University Malaysia for co-organizing this very important event. I am happy to learn that friendly countries like the Russian Federation, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, India, Nepal, Maldives, Thailand, and Japan are also participating in this event, being represented by their respective diplomatic missions in Kuala Lumpur. I am truly delighted to join this celebration of the core element of our identity, the native language, Bangla. Today, I recall with deep respect the unfading memories of martyrs of the language movement of Bangladesh who sacrificed their lives to protect their right to speak in their mother tongue. 70 years ago from today, on 21st February 1952, it is indeed an unprecedented event in the world history where people had to sacrifice their blood to protect and preserve their mother tongue. I pay my sincere tribute to Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and two expatriate Bangladeshis of Vancouver, Canada, for their united efforts in promoting the issue of language movement at the global level. As a result of their tireless efforts and initiative of the government of Bangladesh, the General Assembly of UNESCO designated 21st February as the International Mother Language Day to promote, protect, and preserve the native languages of the planet Earth and their accompanying cultures to enrich humanity. It was decided on November 1999, and the member states of the United Nations have been commemorating this day since 2000. I take this opportunity to extend my warm congratulations to all the people of different languages of the world, along with the Bangla-speaking people, to this virtual forum. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this year's commemoration is very timely. Language in the days of COVID-19 pandemic. Language matters in a pandemic. It matters because the goals of any public health campaign like COVID-19 pandemic induced global health crisis must be clearly defined, especially when the campaigns include measures that limit liberty, damage economy, and the change of our way of life. Researchers at the Michigan State University finds that historically, major events like natural disasters or wars have proven to have big impact on language. The Second World War was a big inflection point for language change, partly because it brought people from so many different nations together who ordinarily wouldn't have had contact with one another. The coronavirus gave us an opposite effect by keeping people apart who in normal times would have been together, thereby causing seismic effects on language use. Technology played a much greater role than anything else in impacting the linguistic changes during this pandemic. June bombing, when strangers break into a video meeting. Doom scrolling, when you skim worrying news on your smartphone. Hamster Kauf, a German word meaning panic buying. Workcation, a holiday when which you also work, or the common words like remote, digital, hybrid, online, offline, mute, unmute became integral part of new normal life. The clarity of messaging often faltered as the pandemic progressed. For example, should we stay 2 meters apart or 1? Should we work from home or go to work? Should we follow stay at home or eat out to help out? Not to mention the vague slogan, stay alert, or phrases like flattening the curve. These ever-changing messages, slogans, buzzwords, and clickbait, in certain cases continue to deflect attention away from failures at basic level to control and in fact control the infection rates. Announcements like moon shoot, world beating, plans or the mutant algorithm, all in effect were attempts to hide policy failures having potential political consequences. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, powerful language can be used to motivate action, and war analogies have somewhat inevitably come to the fore during this pandemic. Leaders around the globe have identified COVID-19 as a common enemy that we can beat. French President Emmanuel Macron, for example, said that his nation is at war with an invisible, elusive enemy. We live in an age of rolling news and social media, where language matters even more than ever. A single statement by a powerful politician can be viewed by millions upon millions of people in every country around the world. We have seen how some populist leaders use the pandemic as a punching bag to ignite more nationalistic or sectarian firestorm of denial and division to gain politically at the cost of basic decency of humanity. Whereas leaders like Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina or Chancellor Angela Merkel spoke the language of compassion, solidarity, responsibility, and inclusion during a time of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. I am happy to learn that a panel discussion on today's theme, language in the days of COVID-19 pandemic will deliberate further on this important topic of our time. I am also pleased to know that a multicultural performing arts-based event is being organized tomorrow. I congratulate the organizers for such efforts to build on the spirit of International Mother Language Day. Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, let me note with deep appreciation the fact that Malaysia is one of the best examples of multilingual and multicultural countries. Language and culture are the essence of Malaysian society. It has enabled the cultivation of unique social identities, which has greatly contributed to the social and economic prosperity of Malaysia, and thus placed her at a very respectable position at the regional and global stage. In that spirit, the initiative like this holds high potential to evolve a cross-border identity which transcends other beliefs, consideration of regional and ethical short-sightedness, and arriving at a broader vision, particularly during these difficult times of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty caused by pandemic. I hope that this collaboration among the partner organization will grow strength to strength in the days ahead. I wish all the success of the two-day event. Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, long live the spirit of International Mother Language Day. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen. We are delighted to have Her Excellency Ms. Yamna Maumun, Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage of Maldives, to convey her opening address. Her Excellency previously served as the Foreign Minister of Maldives. She has played a key role in establishing and re-energizing close ties with traditional counterparts such as India, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Let's now hear from Her Excellency Ms. Yamna Maumun.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, ministers, experts, and other distinguished participants. Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to you all. As I begin, I would like to extend warm greetings and felicitations on the occasion of the upcoming International Mother Language Day. I am thankful to the organizers for hosting such an event, and especially to the High Commission of Bangladesh in Malaysia for inviting me to join this event. Today, as we celebrate International Mother Language Day, I feel an obligation to remember the Bengali language movement and those who gave their lives in 1952 for their mother tongue. This year, the theme of the day is language in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a nation with a unique language spoken by less than 500,000 people, the Maldivian language or Diveri language has played a crucial role during this unprecedented global crisis. For Maldivians geographically dispersed into far islands, it was crucial that the right information about the virus and preventative measures be provided accurately to make the fight against COVID-19 a success. In the Maldives, since the initial phase of the pandemic, regular joint press conferences by all concerned authorities were held and broadcasted in an effort to let people better understand the virus and comprehend the situation. New Diveri words were introduced and some common foreign words were accepted into the local terminology. Easily comprehensible awareness material also became critically important, as like any other country, Maldives also had to face a small minority of people who opposed and campaigned against the vaccine. The pandemic also played an important role in bringing people together through language. With a high rate of expatriate workers in the Maldives, priority was also given to communicate COVID-19 related messages in languages spoken by expatriates. Along with national agencies and concerned authorities, local media outlets also played an important role in filling the language gap. The launching of the Bengali edition of the local online news website is one of those efforts. As the restrictions are being lifted and as we go back to our normal lives, or rather new normal lives, we are content that language has played an important part in delivering the right message. As we hope for this pandemic to come to an end soon, the Maldives stands above the world average when it comes to vaccinated population and has been successful in controlling the virus to the health sector's capacity. Our success in maintaining this pandemic truly has its roots in language and communication. Before I conclude, I would like to call on the world to do our best in order to protect the world's languages, especially the minority languages like our unique Divehi language. Thank you. Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you, Her Excellency, Ms. Yamna Maimun. Our next opening address today is from His Excellency, Mr. Shigeru Oyagi, Director, UNESCO Bangkok Asia and Pacific Regional Bureau for Education. His Excellency joined UNESCO in July 2002 as Chief of the Literacy and Non-Formal Education section in the education sector in Paris. He contributed to the adoption of the UN resolution on the United Nations Literacy Decade International Plan of Action and developed UNESCO's flagship program of literacy initiative for empowerment for 35 countries in the world. He is currently working as the Director of UNESCO Office in Bangkok and UNESCO representative to Thailand, Myanmar, Laos People's Democratic Republic, and Singapore. We will now hear from His Excellency, Mr. Shigeru Oyagi.
Good evening, ministers, colleagues, and participants. Allow me to begin by extending my gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Mohammad Gholam Sarwar, the Bangladesh High Commissioner in Kuala Lumpur, and the government of Malaysia for inviting UNESCO to participate in this meaningful event celebrating International Mother Language Day. As anyone here today knows, International Mother Language Day was originally proposed by the government of Bangladesh and approved at UNESCO's 30th General Conference in 1999. Since that time, UNESCO and its partners have celebrated International Mother Language Day every year on the 21st of February. This year's theme, Using Technology for Multilingual Learning, Challenges and Opportunities, is especially timely as it emphasizes the potential role of technology to advance multilingual education, thereby supporting the development of quality teaching and learning for all. We have recently seen rapid technological transformation impacting many aspects of our lives, including the education system. The increasing role of technology in our lives suggests that it can be fruitfully used to address today's educational challenges and to accelerate our efforts towards ensuring equitable and inclusive lifelong learning opportunities for all. The task is an urgent one, as a vast digital divide in our societies currently contributes to many people's inability to access and create knowledge, not only for themselves, but for the benefit of our communities. Our world is thus at a turning point where we must choose greater equity for all. In that spirit, this webinar explores the important topic of preserving, integrating, and celebrating mother languages in our societies during and beyond any conceivable crisis, such as the current COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic has already brought about unprecedented educational disruption and learning loss. As data indicates, an estimated 10.5 million students in Asia and the Pacific are at risk of never returning to school. Countries have been quick to address learning loss and accelerate learning recovery with a range of remote education delivery modalities, from printed materials and radio broadcasting to mobile app lessons and online video conferencing. During this time, indigenous and ethnic minority children and youth have faced several barriers that limit their access to quality education at all levels. According to the 2020 Global Education Monitoring Report on Inclusion and Education, less than 30% of low and mid-income countries have designed learning materials for speakers of minority languages. If learning materials during remote or hybrid learning are not delivered in languages children already know or feel comfortable with, these children will not be able to access knowledge and evolve in their learning. As a result, they will continue to be left further behind during such periods of disrupted education, even if it seems like they are receiving one. Exclusion and marginalization based on language certainly predates the COVID-19 pandemic. Language plays a big role in the inclusion or exclusion of children in the learning process. Many countries in Asia and the Pacific have made great strides towards mother tongue-based multilingual education, especially in children's early years, when it is most important for them to learn in their first or home languages. Activating mother languages in education can make these languages survive and considerably improve learning outcomes for children in a world where an estimated 40% of the global population does not have access to education in a language they readily speak or understand. Within this context, UNESCO is committed to promoting the inherent value of cultural diversity and the need to preserve it. With our partner of the Asia-Pacific Multilingual Education Working Group, we have been implementing various activities that promote mother tongue-based multilingual education and remove language barriers in education for ethno-linguistic communities in this region. As part of our COVID-19 response efforts, UNESCO has developed 368 ebooks in 19 ethno-linguistic minority languages and a guidance note which highlights specific challenges that ethno-linguistic minority children face, such as remoteness, lack of appropriate learning materials, and language barriers themselves for returning to and remaining in school. On a closely related note, 2022 marks the launch of the UN International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which aims to preserve, revitalize, and promote indigenous and local languages. The decade is especially important to our region, given that Asia and the Pacific is home to some 3,500 languages. We cannot rest on the merits of that diversity. However, as an estimated 2,500 languages globally are at risk of disappearing. Malaysia is one of the countries currently facing the rapid disappearance of these at-risk languages. There are 136 languages in use throughout the country, and 80% of them are now considered endangered. There are important initiatives taking place at country level among UNESCO member states to preserve and promote languages. In Bangladesh, the UNESCO Category 2 Center, which is International Mother Language Institute, preserves languages from around the world, as well as it conducts research and training programs. Recently, the International Conference on Mother Tongue-Based Education, hosted by Malaysia, convened to address important issues of language, mother tongue, and multilingual education, and related issues of social cohesion. I commend both the countries for their commitment in this regard. Under today's theme of language in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the call to utilize technology for advancing multilingual learning, my hope is that all those present today continue to see education as the primary means for preserving, integrating, and developing languages. When pursuing this, we must ensure that the children are learning in their first languages if we are to prevent them from failing further behind. Once again, I would like to thank the Bangladesh High Commission and the government of Malaysia for organizing this very important event. I look forward to learning from the esteemed speakers and from the insightful discussions. I thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Shigeru Oyage. We are also honored to have His Excellency Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sarwar, UNICEF representative to Malaysia and special representative to Brunei Darussalam for the next opening address. His Excellency has 25 years of diverse work in Central Asia, Europe, and Southeast Asia with UNICEF and other UN agencies. He is mostly stationed in politically transitional and developing countries, in countries transitioning rapidly to middle and upper income status, as well as in countries facing extreme humanitarian and post-conflict situation. His Excellency Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sarwar, welcome.
Dear participants, every 2 weeks a language disappears, taking with it an entire culture and intellectual heritage. Article 13 of the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous Peoples states that indigenous people have the rights to revitalize, use, develop, and transmit to future generations their languages, oral traditions, philosophies, writing systems, and literatures. To be effective and sustainable, any efforts to promote and revitalize indigenous languages must be owned by indigenous people themselves. At UNICEF, we always say that we should leave no child behind. Together with partners, we have to ensure that no child from any indigenous group will be left behind from the mainstream of national education system. We are here today because we share the same core belief. Every child in every indigenous community has the equal right to quality education and right to access essential information that save lives. There is a real risk that nearly half of the estimated 6,000 languages spoken in the world will disappear. Only a few hundred of languages are used in education system and public domain today, and less than 100 are used in digital world. It's a matter of cultural survival, but also a matter of survival. Literally, during the COVID-19 pandemic, some communities might have been lacking basic information about how to keep themselves and their communities safe and well. They include people who don't speak the main language or who may be confused or distrustful of messaging even if given in the national language. In 2021, the government of Malaysia has started its national COVID-19 vaccination program. While registrations were increasing in most parts of the country, less than 30% of eligible vaccine recipients in the East Coast state of Kelantan had registered for the vaccine as of end May last year. To support the government initiative, UNICEF decided to run a digital campaign on our Instagram platform for young people to build the confidence in COVID-19 vaccine, encourage compliance with SOPs, and promote mental health well-being. While the campaign was mainly designed in national language, a selected number of visuals and messaging were also produced in the local Kulete dialect of Kelantan. These included visuals covering topics such as vaccinations, what to do if tested positive, safety precautions, holiday, helping each other, and mental health. 7 posts registered more than 1.8 million impressions, 1.3 million reach, with 31,000 interactions. The first post took our followers by surprise, and many left supportive comments, including requests for content in other local language used in Malaysia. It's only one small example to what we can do if we approach issues from an equity angle, and few people suffer more inequity than indigenous people. More needs to be done at the policy level. Allow me to end by borrowing from the work of Richard Grams, a Native American from the Yuchi tribe. I'm quoting, "Indigenous languages are the core, the beating heart of our peoples, cultures and identities. Our language tells us who we are. It's through our language that we speak our world into existence. It is through our language that we know how to live in the world," unquote. So make it happen. Let's speak our words, impart them to our children, and help build a cohesive and just a society that embraces diversity. I thank you all, and I wish you all very fruitful and enjoyable event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency, Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sarwar. We would like to thank all our dignitary speakers for their insights and perspectives on language in the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much. Dear participants, before we continue with our program, we would like to take a quick virtual group picture. So if you don't mind, could you please turn on your camera really quickly and give us your best smile. Okay, at this moment in time, I seek the help of my colleague, Ms. Nur Shahila, to tell me when we have got our beautiful shots.
Okay, everyone, get ready. I will take after 3, yeah? After 3. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, next one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will have next page. Bear with me. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And last page. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah.
Okay. Before we invite our keynote speaker for the event, Center for Geoscience Studies, University of Dhaka has prepared for us a video titled the other side of the pandemic. The pandemic has been a personal experience where everyone has a story to tell. This performance articulates some of those stories. Ailare Noya Daman is an age-old traditional song of Sylhet region, originally sung by Dibyamoni Das in 1965. This song came into the picture again during the beginning of the pandemic in Bangladesh and became a social media sensation. People who were frustrated and dying out of boredom in lockdown took this up quickly and made it a phenomenon. Let's enjoy the performance.
আইলারে নয়া দামান আসমানেরও তেরা বিছানা বিছাইয়া দিলাম শাইল ধানের নেরা দামান বো আইলারে নয়া দামান আসমানেরও তেরা বিছানা বিছাইয়া দিলাম শাইল ধানের নেরা দামান বো আসমানেরও তারা বিছনা পাইতা দিলাম শালি ধানের খড় দিয়া জামাই বইবো আইছে রে নয়া জামাই আসমানেরও তারা বিছনাটা পাইতা দিছি শাইল ধানের খেরা জামাই বউ
We are fortunate to have Professor Dr. Wan Zawawi Ibrahim, a legendary social anthropologist, as our keynote speaker for today's event. He is currently an adjunct professor at Taylor's University, Malaysia. He is also affiliated to Malaysia's Strategic Information and Research Development Center, in which he is the principal researcher for projects related to religious diversity, governance, radicalization, and resilience, with a special focus on Malaysia. His research and publications include Religious Diversity Governance, Malay Peasants, rural labor and indigenous communities, globalization and multiculturalism, contemporary Malaysian popular music, including nasyid and cinema. His current research projects include Islamic cinema in Indonesia and Malaysia and indigenous storytelling. Professor Dr. Wan Zawawi Ibrahim, thank you for being here with us. The platform is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Excellencies, professors, and distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, it's just a real honor for me to be here today to present this keynote address, which is going to be followed by a discussion with invited panelists from all over the world, I believe. So, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to remind ourselves why we are gathered here today. Mother Language Day was first announced by UNESCO on 17 November 1998. And by 2002, it was formally recognized by the United Nations General Assembly. Mother Language Day is part of a broader initiative to promote the preservation and protection of all languages used by peoples of the world. But this important recognition did not emerge out of the blue. It is important, and as obviously at the beginning of this program, we shown in terms of video, the history and journey of this struggle, through the language movement. And it's also important for us to remember this particular struggle, the sacrifice of the martyrs who have contributed to the cause. Of course, Bangladesh celebrate the International Mother Language Day by visiting a special monument built in the memory of the martyrs to express their deep sorrow, respect, and gratitude. But as the story unfolds, we know that in January 1998, two Bengalis living in Vancouver, Rafiqul Islam and Abdul Salam in Canada, were moved to write a letter to Kofi Annan, requesting him to declare an International Mother Language Day, proposing the date of 21st February to commemorate the 1952 killings in Dhaka during the language movement. And subsequently, of course, the Bangladesh Parliament submitted Rafiqul's proposal to UNESCO. And of course, the rest, as we know, is history. As a Malaysian, it is heartwarming for me to note that Malaysia was one of the 28 countries which seconded the proposal submitted by Bangladesh to UNESCO. At the first International Mother Language Day celebration, the then UNESCO Director General Koshiro Matsuura said that, quote, by deciding to celebrate mother tongues, UNESCO's member states wish to recall that languages are not only an essential part of humanity's cultural heritage, but are the mirrors of the soul of the societies in which they are born, and they reflect the history of their context, quote unquote. So today I stand before you to echo again Matsuura's important message to humanity, that language is the most powerful tool for the sustainability and development of cultural heritage, and with it, cultural diversity and identity. By introducing the International Mother Language Day, UNESCO has called on the countries of the world to organize, support, and revitalize actions aimed at respecting and defending all languages, especially languages that are on the brink of extinction. Since languages and cultures are intricately intertwined, defending languages that are on the brink of extinction also means protecting their cultures from being endangered or totally extinguished. Language is what keeps a culture and cultures alive. And the expression and vitality of language is not just through talking or speaking, but there is also a performative element to this. Young people, and of course elders, can keep alive the language and culture through performance, theater, poetry, song, and dance. In Malaysia, it is heartwarming to note our young artists from Sarawak, which is in East Malaysia, for instance, Alina Murang, and the ensemble of indigenous urbanites from Sarawak, Nading Rhapsody, who have both become global ambassadors of their people by performing music and song in the language of their indigenous community. Indeed, some of these musical forms have been contemporized into the genre of world music. And since 1998, Sarawak has been annually showcasing its indigenous music as a world music event on the global stage via its international Sarawak Rainforest Music Festival. Of course, last year, because of the pandemic, they had to do it online. So as a Malaysian, this leads me to logically extend this keynote to the second part of my presentation. That is the Malaysian context, what I call the brave new world of new multiculturalism in Malaysia under the pandemic. But some things are the same, whether with the pandemic or not pandemic. Some of the issues that we face in Malaysia vis-a-vis language, multiculturalism, I think remain the same, as I say, with or without the pandemic. Of course, if you know, the official national language in Malaysia is Malay, or Bahasa Malaysia, and that is, quote, the basis for national integration. However, the government of Malaysia recognized the importance of English as an international language and added that, quote, measures will be taken to ensure that English is taught as a strong second language, quote unquote. But multi-ethnic Malaysia consists of three main ethnic groups: Malays, Chinese, and Indians. Within each, there are several dialects or variations of the main language. In addition, there are minority languages spoken all over the country in the peninsula, as well as the island of Borneo, where the two states of Sabah and Sarawak are located and are the domain of various indigenous communities and languages. In efforts to maintain the language of the other two main ethnic groups, Chinese and Indian, the government provides two different types of school at the primary level: national schools, where the medium of instruction is Malay, and what they call a national type of vernacular schools, where the medium of instruction is either Chinese or Tamil. Even within the three major ethnic groups, dialectical differences exist. Malays, for instance, speak no less than 10 different dialects based on the geographical location, and may lose their dialects if there is no intergenerational transfer by families using their dialects and passing them to the next generation. The Chinese speak in different dialects. For example, Fuzhou, Cantonese, Hokkien, Hakka, based on ethnic origins. However, children sent to Chinese schools learn in Mandarin, the official medium of instruction, which is the language of choice for this group of people, since it is perceived by them as the main language of communication for trade and economy. But opting for Mandarin also means that more Malaysian Chinese children may lose a part of the non-Mandarin based culture. As for the indigenous languages in Peninsular Malaysia, they are spoken by the Jahai, Jahut, Jakun, Samai, Mahmeri, Temia, and Temuan. In Sabah, by the Kadazan, Dusun, Bajau, and Murad. And in Sarawak, the Iban, Bidayo, and Milano. Iban is the main tribal language in Sarawak, while Dusun and Kadazan languages are spoken by the natives in Sabah. Some of these languages remain strong, being used in education and daily life, and for the purposes of social networking, shopping, and local business transaction. The Iban and Kadazan Dusun languages are also taught in schools in Sarawak and Sabah. Hence, the major indigenous groups such as Kadazan Dusun and Iban, which have developed an educational syllabus, are better empowered than other ethnic minorities. In the peninsula, among the Orang Asli, Semai is the indigenous language used in education. But there are other smaller indigenous communities that are not equally empowered in the sustenance of the language and culture, sometimes when only a handful of elderly people who still use the language. This has serious implications, as indigenous knowledge and culture may also be lost along with the language, and people may lose a sense of who they were and their cultural identity. Indeed, in the pursuit of attaining competence in the language of commodity and enterprise, many minority languages and even cultures are sometimes sacrificed. Studies have shown that mothers, the primary supporters of education in most families, take pains to raise their children in the quote-unquote school language rather than their own native tongue. This is to ensure that their children will have a head start as they enter primary or even preschool. A research paper mentioned that many of the 138 living languages in Malaysia are listed as endangered, and some are undergoing language shift. Most of these languages are shifting towards Malay, the national language, and to English, international language. Since Standard Malay is the language of instruction in the government schools, many indigenous parents are speaking Malay to the children with the hope of giving them a better start in education. Another research which examined the sustainability status of Sarawak indigenous languages show that the domains of the ethnic language are shrinking because of the growing presence of Malay varieties like Standard Malay or Sarawak Malay, particularly for smaller groups. The ethnic language is still strong in the family and religious domain, but has little place in the education and mass media domains. But on a more positive note, in more recent years, several indigenous people groups concerned about what they perceive as the decline in the use of the ethnic language among the younger generation have begun language development and or mother tongue education program. There are 4 language minority groups, the Kadazan Dusun and the Iranun in Sabah, the Iban in Sarawak, and the Semai in Peninsular Malaysia. And what they are doing is to provide the beginning of education programs for the children that use the children's own languages. In Sabah and Sarawak, we note that for the past 15 years, as part of the attempt to reverse this language shift, several of the indigenous minority groups have been engaged in language development projects. And as awareness grows, more groups are joining them. They have developed appropriate writing systems and produced linguistic papers to increase understanding of the vocabulary and grammar of the languages. They have also implemented early childhood education programs with the intention of increasing the number of speakers of the languages, seeking to revitalize vulnerable languages. In Peninsular Malaysia, the Semai, Orang Asli language teaching program, was initiated in 1998. The program was an outcome of the efforts made by the Semai indigenous Orang Asli community by engaging themselves with relevant government authorities, particularly the Curriculum Development Division, Ministry of Education, Malaysia. Semai indigenous language teaching provides a school-based program for the indigenous language acquisition and development, and at once serve as a starting point for preserving, stabilizing, maintaining, and sustaining the Semai indigenous language, thereby safeguarding it from extinction. This program will also help the Semai to further empower intergenerational language transmission. Malaysia should be proud of our linguistic diversity, which is a great national resource that should be leveraged to our advantage in the era of globalization to play an important social and economic role on the world stage. Until recently in Malaysia, when we talk about protecting mother tongue, it invariably refers to Chinese, Tamil, Iban, Kadazan, Bidayuh, Orang Asli, but excludes Malay, as it is the official language of the country. But Malay is also a mother tongue that requires respect and protection, especially with the globalization of communication and the tendency to use a single language, the English language. At this global level, there is also the risk of marginalizing other major languages of the world and even causing the lesser used languages, including regional languages, to disappear. In fact, there is the view that a language that is not on internet is a language that no longer exists in the modern world, which is why there is a global movement to protect mother tongue on the internet through the promotion and use of multilingualism and universal access to cyberspace. A study of the universal statistics on the use of different languages on the internet will show that even the Malay language will have to safeguard its position from the threat of seeping global monolingualism, highlighting the importance of the International Language Mother Day, even to the Malay language in the global context. Thank you very much, and may you all have a productive discussion and dialogue.
We would like to take this time to thank Professor Dr. Wanzawi Ibrahim for imparting his knowledge, views, and expertise on the focus of today's topic. Thank you. Now we have come to our panel discussion session, which will be followed by the question and answer session. You may type your questions and comments in the chat box, and our moderator will put it forward to our panelists during the question and answer session. Our first discussant is Professor Dr. Amina Mohsen. She teaches in the Department of International Relations, University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. She writes on human rights, gender and minority, state, democracy, civil-military relations, border and human security issues. She authored The Politics of Nationalism, The Case of Chittagong Hill Tracks, Bangladesh, and Women and Militancy, South Asian Complexities, to name a few. Professor Dr. Amina Mohsen, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Excellencies and distinguished guests over here. And I believe I have been given 10 minutes, but I'll be mostly talking about at different levels, like concentrating on the main topic, that language and pandemics. And I would like to, during the discussion, I would bring in the Bangladesh context and particularly the indigenous people's context. But let me begin with because I come from a social science background, and not only social science, international relations background. So I think what I have experienced as a political scientist, as an analyst of international relations, that also I would like to bring in over here. At the, when one talks about language and pandemics at the general level, one did observe that there was, I would say, a spinning off or a spiraling of different vocabularies that we are not really used to during the pandemic period, but suddenly we started absorbing those words. And it was important to see that how, if those vocabularies could, or those words could translate itself or give itself a meaning in the local cultural context, in the social context, and also more importantly, in the economic context or the daily lives of the people, that was very important. And we got used to words like social distancing, lockdown, bubble, quarantine, masking, or, and particularly this particular word, social distancing, I would say it had, this could have been phrased in a different way. One could have used the term physical distancing, because social distancing in the Bangladesh context, or particularly maybe in the Asian context, it has a different connotation. And for economic reasons, for demographic reasons, cultural reasons, this was difficult to convey to the people that what it actually meant. And as the Honorable Foreign Minister pointed out earlier, that one had difficulties in conveying the messages clearly to the people. And also one observed that at the general level, the language that was used in general, it had a kind of analogy, if I may say, use the word with a vocabulary that is used during the wartime. like frontliners, battlefront, frontline warriors, and then, lockdown, quarantine, curfew, Janta's curfew. These are different words. These are not normally used. I mean, so this kind of created a panic among the people. And what I'm trying to emphasize, that when you have a pandemic situation, it is very important to harmonize the language and to align it with the lived lives of the people. So somehow we found that that thing was missing I'm talking about the general level, and people, like it was difficult to convey it to the people. And also several researchers have shown that there was a direct relationship between the political messages or the messages that were conveyed by political leaders and the outbreak of the pandemic. Because as our Honorable Foreign Minister had pointed out, that some leaders used it for populist purposes, for nationalistic purposes, which stoked the nationalistic fervor, but then had a negative impact on the outbreak of the pandemic, and perhaps it could have been contained in a better way. And studies have shown that there was a strong gender dimension to the language also, and practical words spoken with empathy, sympathy, or compassion, they had different impact. And if we do a kind of categorization, I mean, there is a clear division. One can analyze the speeches of the political leaders that were delivered during the pandemic period, and one can see that there are different kind of categories emerged. Some were populist, nationalistic, some were very empathetic, some upheld the unity, the global unity, upheld the ideals of the international system, and some were very instrumentalist. I'm not going to go into the categorization at this moment because of the paucity of time, but I would just like to make this point over here for the for others to consider and maybe to carry it on. And if we look at the global politics, I mean, there was a report in the Daily Star, which was on 12th of February 2022, which really struck me, that anti-Asian hate crimes have increased in the United States following the outbreak of the pandemic. And I followed up the news, and not only the news, and subsequently the different information available. It so happened that this had a direct correlation with the kind of utterances, political utterances, that were made during the initial period of the pandemic by the then President of the United States, Donald Trump. He termed the virus as an Asian virus. So, that's what I'm trying to say, that what kind of messages are coming across, that is very important. And also in the lexicon of international relations, we came across words like vaccine diplomacy. We saw the very nationalistic overtones, the nationalization of the borders. The migrants came under attack, and migrants were regarded as corona carriers. And this whole notion of pollution, purity came into play. I'll be very brief, I'm moving very fast. And coming back to the Bangladesh context, since, as has been pointed out earlier as well, that the United Nations had declared the decade from 2022 to 2032 as the International Decade for Indigenous Languages. And according to one estimate, out of the 7,000 languages that are spoken around the world, 40% are at the risk of extinction. And this is a big number. I mean, one has to be very careful about this, and one has to take this very seriously, because 40% means, it's a large section of the population is at the risk of losing their languages. And language is not only linked to one's culture and identity, but also very inextricably, I would say, linked to people's religions, beliefs, also people's existence, and the way people would like to, how we how people interact and the lived lives of the people. So that is very important when we say that 40% of the languages are at the risk of extinction. Coming to Bangladesh context, in 2019, we find that the Bangladesh government gave recognition to 50 ethnic communities in Bangladesh as Khudro Nrigoshti, which means small ethnic groups. And there are contestations among the researchers, among the ethnic communities about the numbers. I mean, some claim that the number will go as high as 140. Some people claim that it's 75. So we do not have an exact number within our hands at this moment. But it is also important to note that out of this 50 communities, Bangladesh government has given recognition to 39 ethnic languages. And it has also been recognized that out of this 39 languages, 14 languages are at the risk of extinction. I was interviewing Sanjeev Drang, who is the president of the Bangladesh Adivashi Forum. He said to me that the number is actually close to 25. It is not 14, which are at the risk of extinction. But anyhow, I mean, I'm not going to go into the politics of numbers. All I'm trying to say is that there is a serious need for data, and there's a serious need for keeping records of the exact number of languages that are there in Bangladesh, the ethnic languages. And we also find that, books have been printed in Shadri, Garo, Korobok, which is the Tripura language, the Marba language, and Chakma language, up to pre-primary or primary levels. And interestingly, the Shadri books, the books which have been printed in the Shadri language, which is supposed to be the language of the Shantals, the alphabets are in Bangla language. For the Garo, the alphabets are in Roman language, are in Roman. For the Tripura, again, it is Romer. And for the Marma, it is Burmese. And for the Chakma, the alphabets are in Chakma language. And during the pandemic, I mean, this is something which I would like to borrow from our esteemed keynote speaker when he said that a language would be lost if it is not in the internet, or if it is not in the digital form. And we find that already a digital divide exists in Bangladesh, and particularly among the ethnic people, majority of them did not have access to the digital facilities or the online access to classes during the pandemic period. And like I was interviewing people from the Chittagong Hill Tracts, where 11 ethnic groups are there. I was interviewing them over telephone, and they told me that they do not have access to the digital platforms over there because the net connection is very bad, and no classes were held in the local languages during the pandemic period. And they were very clear about it, that major reason behind is that there are not trained teachers to teach them in these languages. So when we talk about, teaching, providing education to the indigenous people in their own languages, one also has to be very mindful of the fact if there are logistics available for them, or if there are teachers available for them. And they pointed out to me the need for having trained teachers who can teach them in the local languages. And And this is something I'm quoting from, and I will conclude with this, from Sanjeev Drong, who said to me that he thinks that it is very important to have, like an academy like the Bangla Academy, which we have in the capital city Dhaka in Bangladesh, to have an academy for the languages of the indigenous people in the capital city itself. And he felt that this is how we can mainstream the indigenous languages, instead of keeping them in somewhere in the hill tracts in Rangamati or other places. If we can have these academics in the capital city, then people will be able to know more about the ethnic languages. And as I said, that since this is the decade for the protection of the indigenous languages, I'm sure that a database would be created, and authorities in Bangladesh would take note of the grievances and the concerns of the people, of the indigenous people. And they also felt that, and I also asked them that how was the messaging done during the pandemic period? How did they get the messages? And they made it very clear to me that it was the local leaders who translated the messages in the local language and conveyed it to the people. And so when we talk about what Dr. Imtiaz was talking about, social resilience, social cohesion, so this is something which comes out very strongly among the indigenous people, and the indigenous communities have found that even among the Garos, Sanjeev Drong told me that they went to the Khashia Pahads or the Khashia Hills and conveyed the messages to the indigenous people. So I'll just conclude here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Amina. I would first like to get the rest of the panel together. Is everybody ready? We have Dr. Nong Hathai as well. Okay, Dr. Nong Hathai is from University of Chulalongkorn. She's going to make up part of our panel. And then we will have Shamini. Okay, Shamini is a well-known writer. She comes from Singapore, many books, many novels. We also have Miss Preeta Samarasan. Okay, Miss Preeta is also known for her, evening is, Preeta, can you remind me? Evening is the whole day, right? Yes. She's known for that book, and she's in France at the moment. And then we also have Prof. Joseph Gonzalez. He's in one of the leading dance academies in Hong Kong. So Prof. Amina, thank you for starting off for us. And I can see from, you have your take is more on, because you're coming from the political and analyst lens and as an educator in the midst of this pandemic, I think your line of work, you would understand that the key to resilient communities is through the inclusion of local and indigenous knowledge, as well as the incorporation of grassroots practices in a meaningful way. And I think you also understand that, based on what you were telling us just now, you truly understand that there was and there is a severe limitation of the multilingual crisis of communication at the moment. So if we can just go back a little bit to what Prof. Zawawi had said much earlier on, and then we will move from that. I think Prof. Zawawi has set the stage for us, by bringing to the fore not only the historical aspects of this event, but also the status quo of the long-standing devaluation of minoritized languages and mother tongues. As much of society today is kind of entrenched in this English-centric monolingual mindset, right? So Dr. Nong Hathai, your expertise is in the area of language translation and interpretation. If you could just take the next few minutes to shed some light on how you view this language phenomenon from your lens. Dr. Nong Hathai?
Thank you very much. May I share my slides? I cannot share my screen right now. Well, but if not, it's okay. I can just speak from things I have prepared. Well, as we celebrate the International Mother Language Day, I'd like to start off by expressing my total support for the idea of enabling people to speak and have access to information in their own language, in the language that they're most comfortable with, which is their mother tongue. And well, so today I will be talking a little bit about language services that will enable people to be able to speak and understand in their own mother tongue. So what I'll be speaking about is a bit lighter than previous speakers. So I hope that, well, at least, although it doesn't touch upon any political issues, but it will contribute to the promotion of cultural interactions in the modern world. So, well, as we know that with the lockdowns during the COVID-19 pandemic, international travels dropped drastically, resulting in decrease of intercultural interactions at the beginning. International meetings and conferences were canceled and postponed. So I myself, as a freelance interpreter, I've talked to my colleagues interpreters, and they say that all the events, all the assignments they had got canceled and postponed indefinitely. So at the beginning, we observed they are stalled and dropped in intercultural interactions. But later on, when the time passed by and the pandemic dragged on, people try to reestablish intercultural interactions, although international travel were still limited. So most of these interactions are moved online, and well, we try, well, there are virtual meetings, and okay, now I can share my slides. So may I share my slides now?
Yes, please.
Okay, can you see? Okay. So
Yeah.
now, okay. So now people are more used to online and virtual meetings like now we are having today. And this has become a new normal. And those who leave virtual meetings and conferencing out of consideration before the pandemic have become more accepting of this mode of communication. So before pandemic, many simultaneous interpreters who only required direct view of the speakers and refused to work with only audio-visual feeds. But now they are gladly accept remote interpreting assignments. And nowadays, witness examination, doctor appointments, interviews, and even theatrical plays, concerts, and fan meetings are now conducted online. So once virtual interaction become a new normal, the costly and time-consuming international travels are no longer the problem. So we are now seeing more intercultural interactions than ever before. At our university in Bangkok, we have invited professors from the US, Spain, Argentina, and Brazil, as far as Brazil, to teach a class or give a talk. It was unimaginable before pandemic, because to travel from Brazil to Thailand, it take more than 30 hours to travel. And then the cost of transportation, accommodation, and everything made it impossible or impractical to invite a professor to give a 3 hours talk in Thailand. But now with online meeting, which were available before pandemic, but were not very popular or very well accepted. But nowadays it's become a new normal. So we have more and more online interactions. I once worked from Bangkok as an interpreter for a researcher based in Argentina who interviewed Thai-speaking participants who are based in Chile. So 3 different locations, and we can still work together. And that another example is this massive online fan meeting held by a Thai entertainment company in May last year. In May 2020, so 2 years ago. There are hundreds of thousands of fans who attend this event online. And if you look at this, there are you see video feeds of all the fans who attended, maybe not all of them because there are so many. And if you look at this picture, there are more than 200,000 people attending this announcement of this events. And okay, let me play this video for you. Okay, how were you? How was your experience? I mean, as a fan, the event was held in, well, most of the conversation were in Thai, so many of the fans were not, did not understand what was going on. The actors try to, these are actors, so the actors try to greet their fans in different languages because there are fans attending from all locations in the world. And they were try to speak Chinese, Indonesian, Japanese, Korean, Burmese, Portuguese, English, and French. However, everything else is in Thai, and the host can only provide translation into 2 languages, which is English and Chinese. So according to Thomas Bodinet, who is a cultural anthropologist based in Australia, he attended this event as a fan as well as an academic. And he said that the translations were very limited and many fans didn't understand what the actors and the host said. There's another interlingual event. This is another Thai group. There are singers, there are pop bands, and they have more than half of their fans are from Latin America. And the fans, I mean, if you look at their YouTube videos, most of the comments are in either Portuguese or Spanish because most of their fans lived in Latin America. They're new, they debuted last year, so they're not very well known yet in Thailand. And they hold a Facebook Live where fans can attend it, and everything was in Thai. So, but still, many fans said, okay, I don't understand anything, but still I'm here watching the boys. And this person here said, we all need to know what they were saying. So it seems that people do need language services, but many companies and many organizers are not aware of this necessity yet. They provide just very limited translation. Actually, there are, this is another fan meeting. Maybe in the sake of time, we can skip that. But actually, to enable interlingual communication, language services are key to enable understanding. And we can provide the language service online with these virtual interactions. It can be in the format of subtitling, consecutive interpreting or simultaneous interpreting. In this case, Formix, the same group that has well, most of their fans are based in Latin America. They have the Embassy of Thailand in Mexico invited them to organize an event for the fans to promote Thai culture. So the embassy provided consecutive interpreters. These two are interpreters from the embassy. So the boys spoke in Thai and the fans asked questions in Spanish, and they type the question in the comments of the Facebook, and then these two interpreters translate from Thai to Spanish and then Spanish to Thai. So these language services can be provided online. But if you don't have, if you don't want to choose consecutive interpreters, I mean, you can have simultaneous interpretation, and in Zoom, if you have this feature enabled, you will see this button right here, and you can select the language that you would like to hear in. But of course, you need to hire interpreters, professional interpreters, to do simultaneous interpreting, because for simultaneous interpreting, it means that they speak the same time as the speaker does. So if the speaker speaks for an hour, the interpreter will have to be working and speaking 1 hour long. So this simultaneous interpretation provides seamless communication virtually online. And another option is subtitling. Many people disregards this option because they say this is a live event, how can you do subtitling? But nowadays, live subtitling is available. For example, in Zoom, actually, this is the feature, live transcript. If you have this feature enabled, you can have someone type the translation on live online. So we held an event in Thailand when I said before that we invited a professor from Brazil, and she gave her talk in Spanish because we didn't have a Portuguese interpreter. So we had a Spanish interpreter, and she said she's very comfortable speaking in Spanish. So she gave her lecture in Spanish, and we have students, or trained students, to type the translation, and the subtitling is here because, well, the students are not trained to be simultaneous interpreters. So it's easier for them to do subtitling, although it's the quality is not as complete as the simultaneous interpreters, but it's enable participants, Thai participants who don't understand a word in Spanish to follow the talk. And lastly, I would like to just summarize that, well, actually before going to the summary, if you actually both consecutive, simultaneous, and subtitling require some certain cost because you have to pay people to do the job. But if you are low on budget, there is another possibility, which is the use of AI or Google Translate. Actually, I have prepared a slides, but it didn't work. So I would like to share a live test right now. I think you can see YouTube and the Google Translate on the right-hand side, right? If you play this, if you have the Google Translate on you, this video is in Spanish, and I would provide subtitle, live subtitle in English for you. So the subtitle will be here. I will play it. Well, but first I have to enable the microphone, and then.
En el 2002 comencé a jugar profesional.
I'm sorry, I think there is something wrong. Okay, I'll do it again.
País, El Salvador, en segunda división. Luego pasé para un equipo de primera, siempre ahí en El Salvador. Luego tuve la oportunidad 2007, 2008 de ir a jugar a México. Luego de México agarré.
So in the sake of time, I would like to stop here. I mean the video, because, well, as you can see, the live transcript can enable you to understand something. You understand that this is a soccer player who was from El Salvador, and then he went on to Mexico and later to the United States before coming to Thailand, but that part haven't been played yet. And so I would like to go back to the slides. This is my last slide. So just a conclusion that actually language services enable people who speak different languages to interact while they speak the language they're most at home in, which is their mother tongue. So organizers will have to be aware of this language services. They please don't disregard it as impossible or you don't have budget for that, because actually there are, you can use Google Translate to do live subtitling, although the quality is still far from the human quality, but well, it's something, and it's providing access to people who otherwise wouldn't have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nonghatai. I think you have certainly shown us a facet of what translation can do in terms of its roles, functions, and I think the need is even more dire now during the pandemic. I would like to ask the panel a related question with regards to the act of translating from one language to another. So while the act of translation, right, and translating, it truly facilitates communication, there's this perception that the power or even beauty of a particular language is sometimes lost in translation, especially in the context of the arts and literature. How does the panel view this? Can this contribute to a certain extent to the weakening of certain mother languages? Does it have an impact on the sustenance of some of our minority languages? Anyone? Any thoughts on if this has an impact at all?
Like I tried this Google translation for using certain proverbs which are used in the Bengali language, and I found that somehow, the Google goes very straightforward, and it is totally lost. When we talk about proverbs, these come with storytelling, with art, culture. So I guess my experience is not a very good one, because I've tried not with straightforward languages, but trying to use it with, because I do a lot of work on cultural studies as well, and trying to see that if proverbs can be converted, translated. So it did not at all capture the meaning also, because the proverbs have a context to it, and it did not capture that. And unless one is very much into the culture of that thing, of the place, one would not understand it.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Amina, for that insight. Does anybody else want to comment on that, or shall I just move on? Okay, I'll move on. Okay, I'll move on to Shamini. Shamini, as a writer, you are in the trade of producing literary compositions of sorts, among other things. If you could just share with us for the next few minutes, what is the journey like for someone like you in terms of reflecting on the present condition of most mother languages and the actual reality of the situation in the clutches of the pandemic?
Thanks for having me on. I rarely had the opportunity to participate in forums like this. I've certainly never spent so much time in the company of excellencies, so thank you for that privilege. I, first of all, would like to apologize. I have to apologize for two things. One is the photo of me that you've used in your material, which was taken 10 years ago. And it's become apparent to me that the 10 years have been pretty tough on me, because, I don't look like that anymore. So that was the first thing that slightly depressed me this evening. And the second thing was discovering, as I sat through, that I'm basically an imposter at your conference on mother tongues. And the main reason for that, I confess, is that I actually do not have a mother tongue. I should, because my parents were ethnically Sri Lankan Tamil and Malayali from India. So I should speak both. But instead of which I speak neither, and I'm an extremely bad example, because I can't even swear in my mother tongues, which I think was always the sort of minimum standard that even poor native speakers try to achieve. So I only speak English, you know, a colonial imposition, and Malay, which is a sort of national imperative. So I feel a little bit, I felt saddened as I listened to Prof. Nithya and Prof. Nawawi spell out to me precisely what I had lost, because definitely I am sort of culturally adrift, you know, and historically adrift from my forebears. Such was my concern about what had happened to me, and also what was going to sort of be the experience of my children. Unfortunately, I married an Englishman, and you know, they barely speak English, let alone anything else. So that set me back on my sort of path to introducing my children to another language. So I thought, never mind, I'll try Malay. So I would regularly try and speak to them when they were little in Malay. And one day when we were driving across the causeway into Malaysia, and I stopped to pay the toll and have a quick chat with the lady behind the toll booth, and I lengthened the conversation a little bit because I wanted the kids in the back seat to sort of realize how good it is to be able to go into another country and speak their language, and then they'd see the benefit of it all and leap at the chance to learn another tongue. And as we drove past, after I was done, a small voice piped up from the back of my 3-year-old son, and he said, "Mommy, I didn't know that you spoke Spanish." And I thought, well, okay, you know, clearly I'm struggling a little bit here. So, you know, given that I am mother tongue-less, I sometimes wonder. So I often feel saddened by it, and quite often I feel guilty about it because I write in English. I mean, if it's any comfort, I don't have that many readers, so I'm not sort of imposing a colonial language on too many people. But I wonder, should I be allowed to claim English as my mother tongue? My family laughs at me when I sort of quote Shakespeare and tells me that my England is very good. And I've been called a coconut, obviously brown on the outside and white on the inside. But, you know, I actually dispute that characterization of who I am, because although I communicate in English, I don't feel that I've lost my Asianness or my Indianness or my Malaysianness when I do that. I mean, I could be wrong about that. And of course, I speak English in a way that is my own, well, you know, or culturally my own, you know, in terms of syntax and slang and grammar and so forth. And when I speak English, I don't express my views in order to speak to England or the Western world. I speak in English to communicate amongst ourselves. But I don't want to speak it merely as a sort of matter of convenience at forums like this, or you know, as a sort of sad relic of a colonial past, or even just as a matter of convenience. I want to speak it. I want to own it as my right. You know, I want to sort of, I'm a lawyer. I want a reverse takeover, you know, of this language, because in a sense, it is my mother tongue. It's not my mother tongue in the direct way that my mother spoke it. Well, she did speak it to me, but not in the sense that her mother spoke it to her, but in the sense that her experience of life led her to a place where that was the language that she spoke to me. So her cultural context led her to speak English to me. And I feel that sometimes I should be allowed to claim it as my own, rather than constantly sort of feeling marginalized from conversations in English, feeling like an imposter, or feeling like I'm personally part of the reason that we're losing our mother tongues. And this is not to argue that we should abandon all mother tongues and just adopt English, you know, quite the contrary. But for those of us who find ourselves in this isolated place, you know, rather than constantly thinking of ourselves as imposters, I think we have some right as part of our sort of history to demand that that language belong to us, and, you know, not to sort of, you know, not to sort of thank our colonial masters for teaching us a language, because, you know, obviously they did it just so that, you know, we'd understand their orders. But if it's any comfort, I give the orders in my house. So my English husband, you know, I'm doing revenge one individual at a time. So, I think it's important that when we do find ourselves in the position that I do, that we take ownership of it and not sort of apologize too much. Coming to language in the time of COVID, I mean, I mean, there's been a lot written about COVID, and there's been quite a lot of discussion about how we've changed the manner we communicate and adopted a whole new sort of paradigm in terms of the words we use. But what I find almost more interesting than, or at least an element that is different, is not just which language we're using to express our COVID experience in, and not even what is being expressed, but who is expressing these ideas or these thoughts about the pandemic. I personally, as a professional writer, in the sense that, you know, I write for a living, have written for decades, and I have sort of observed society closely as a writer, because you never know which incident is going to work its way into a paragraph, or, you know, if it's good enough incident, into a chapter. So, and then COVID came along, and I find that everything I thought I knew about the world has been completely upended. And I have lost my voice. I have lost my writing voice. I can't write about masks and anti-maskers. I can't write about loneliness when I'm isolated. I can't write about family when they're on Zoom. I feel that I just don't have the words anymore. And then on Facebook, sadly, I'm still on Facebook. I mean, you know, maybe he'll go bankrupt and we'll find an alternative. But in the meantime, I discovered that people who are not professional writers, or who don't normally write, were expressing a lot of literary ideas. We're trying to find language, trying to express what they were feeling. People whom I've never seen do that before, you know, some of my questionable relatives. And I think it's just the fact there was a little bit more time, you know, and because we were all sort of locked down, because the experience was so different from what had gone before. So people who saw the world as not something they needed to write about suddenly found themselves in a place where it was so different. They wanted to find a way of expressing it, you know, and so I would see poetry and art and satire, you know, politicians setting rules, politicians breaking rules. One thing that's interesting about politicians breaking rules, though, is that I'm pleased to announce that they do it in a culturally consistent way, you know, which for instance, in Malaysia, politicians break rules by going off to eat durians. And in the UK, they break rules by going off to have a beer with their friends. But at least we have a sort of consistency in our cultural expression of rule breaking, which is, I suppose, something. So, and these non-professional writers were doing so much more work when I had lost my voice. So I actually put together a poetry, well, it's not a poetry collection, it's a poetry, story, art, photography collection called Unmasked, which I'm going to sort of hold up because I don't know how to use slides. I was very impressed by our previous speaker actually trying to play a live video, because that's well outside anything I would dare attempt. And I find these sort of first-time voices coupled with professional voices all trying to record this time of trauma. I found that a very fulfilling experience in this time that I myself cannot write, because it's important that we don't forget. We appear as a society to be able to forget trauma immediately, that it's over, and learn nothing from it. And unless we sort of change that paradigm, I fear we will be in cycles of pandemics or whatever next horror our, you know, treatment of the environment is going to produce. So as a writer, I've lost my voice, I hope temporarily. But as a reader and as an observer, I am excited by how many more people are expressing themselves in this time of COVID. It's almost like a sort of democratization of experience, of the communicating of experience. And that's really all I've got to say on the subject of mother tongues and COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamini. Thank you. I think what you said about owning English, I think that resonates with a lot of us here. And while there is, you know, a struggle for some of us to speak our mother language, there's also this side of us that has acquired newer forms of using language, as you have also pointed out. At the same time, you've also said this, you know, our behaviors have changed, our attitudes have changed. And, you know, while we continue to enrich our linguistic prowess, in a sense, some of us has also, you know, some of us have found a part of ourselves that we didn't know existed. So on the one hand, we're progressing, and then there's also regressing in our attempts to transmit cultural artifacts to a certain extent in relation to our weakening grasp of much of these mother languages. So Preeta, just like Shamini, much of your endeavors are writing related. And as writers, I think there is a sort of an unspoken understanding that language repertoires can in fact build trust and relationships. If we reflect a little bit on what Prof. Zawawi was saying earlier, we understand that language, it's primordial, it's fundamental, it's so basic. And to uphold it is an immense responsibility, I would think. So Preeta, if you can just take the next few minutes and share with us some of your insights and experiences with language, and perhaps what are some of your related observations?
Sure, yeah. I mean, you know, a lot of what Shamini just said about language is true for me also. So as other people were speaking, I had the same response to it that well, I don't know actually what my mother tongue is. Should it be? And I've always even, you know, questioned the term mother tongue. I'm certainly not the only person to have questioned it, because you know, for many of us, there's this conflict or friction between, let's call it our ancestral language or languages, and the language that we're actually most comfortable in. It's not necessarily the same language, right? Because like Shamini, I'm most comfortable in English, but my ancestral language is Tamil. So which I speak, you know, I can swear in Tamil. I'm proud to report, but I speak a kind of home Tamil, a kitchen Tamil. I don't read or write it very well. Whereas English is the language I think in and dream in mostly, usually. So yeah, I've always felt this, you know, I've always had the same questions or the same discomfort, I suppose, with the kind of more essentializing approach to, you know, mother tongue versus colonial tongue, you know, some sort of in that in between space. And so like Shamini, I've thought about how it is that we can own English, how it is that we can reclaim it as our own. You know, I think it was Rushdie who famously said, you know, the British took Indian cotton and spun it and sold it back to Indians. And we're doing that with their language. We've taken it and we've woven it into our own fabric, and we're going to sell it back to them, which I thought was fabulous. But like Shamini, I also think, you know, what is that English? There's so many different English languages in this world now, so many different Englishes. And what is ours, or what is mine, at least, even if I don't want to speak for other people, what's my English? And I think that, you know, my English, even if we say my English is Malaysian English, even that is a complicated statement, because I think as Malaysians, we code switch so easily that we have actually many different Malaysian Englishes or Manglishes. I've noticed, for example, that when I'm speaking with my Chinese classmates from Ipoh, I speak a different Malaysian English than when I'm speaking with my older Malaysian Indian relatives. And these are both Malaysian Englishes, but they're not the same one, right? So that whole question of like owning or reclaiming is already complicated for me. And with the pandemic, like so many other people, I was spending you know, more and more time online and looking at how other Malaysians use Malaysian English or standard English or in communication, in written communication. And if that was even possible, what are the limits of trying to preserve or reclaim English as a local Malaysian language online? And well, I mean, it's, I suppose what I'm going to say is not at all unique to the COVID period. But for a long time, well before COVID, I've been noticing that all of our different Englishes, Malaysian English or whatever other Englishes, you know, all the Englishes that there are out there, are sort of under, well, attack is a strong word, but I feel that they're gradually being encroached upon by a kind of US-centric online language, right? And this is the language of social media and of the younger generation, but it's also the language of US academia, of US-dominated academia. So, you know, it's, I noticed that syntax and vocabulary and even accents when we speak are gradually becoming more and more Americanized, I suppose. And so that's something that in my work, but also in my interactions on social media, I've tried to resist, which is, it happens in very small ways, but in my written, sort of more formally written work as well. So I've just come out of the process of editing a second novel that's going to be out in November. And while I was doing that, I realized that so much of what I'm doing now, at least, people change as writers. What I was doing 10 years ago was probably not quite the same, but my preoccupation now is how to do this, how to sort of defend this very nebulous idea of a written Malaysian English or several written Malaysian Englishes, how to defend and transform it into a literary language. So yeah, that's sort of, I think there's so many ideas, some of which are unique to the pandemic, some of which are unique to just modern existence, modern life, that we tend to express in what I will call the American way, because that's where we first encounter these ideas, or that's where we first sort of crystallize them into language. And so we sort of take on that language and use it, I think, without really questioning it. And to me, that's very troubling, because when we take on language, we also take on ideas. We take on the whole thing as a kind of package deal. And because we're not unpacking the language, we're also not questioning the ideas. And so there were a couple of quotes that I wanted to read out on this subject. I think I'll go to the, I'll do these in chronological order, because there are a couple of different literary theorists or people who think about languages in history who have talked about this. The first, I guess, the first group of people talking about this was, quite a while ago in the 1920s. There were people like Brecht and Victor Shklovsky, who famously talked about what he called defamiliarization, so that you take an idea that already has a word or a phrase, and you, basically speak about it as though you were inventing the language again, and as though you were having to explain it to aliens who didn't have all of these words. So, Shklovsky called this estrangement, defamiliarization, or simply making strange. In the theory of prose, Shklovsky would distinguish between recognition and seeing. Ordinary perception falls into the former category. We don't see objects so much as recognize them according to pre-existing patterns of thought. The world arrives prepackaged and passes us by without a graze, and so held accountable for nothing, life fades into nothingness. Okay, so that's pretty heavy way of saying what I was talking about. But the other person that I also, the other essay, I should say, that I go back to again and again and again is an essay by Zadie Smith that's quite a bit more recent. I think it's just a couple of years old at this point, and it was published in, I think, the Los Angeles Review of Books, I'm not sure now, and it's called Fascinated to Presume. And it's, broadly speaking, an essay about fiction, but in that essay, she again comes back to this idea, this problem within language, where we sort of inherit concepts along with the language. We inherit the language first, and we sort of don't realize that we're inheriting concepts or ideas along with these. So hang on a second, I'll just open this. Like Shamini, I'm not so good with the slides, so I've tried to save these in a different way on my phone. So here we go. This is what Zadie Smith, well, in this particular instance, she's talking about the term cultural appropriation, which I should say is something that I've spoken about myself as well, because I think that the feelings around it are real. The concept is kind of real, and it's something that exists in this world, depending on the context, but more and more I've questioned the term itself. It's not a term that I choose to use anymore, because I think that it is a uniform term that does not fit all the different contexts in which we use it. So here's what Zadie says about it. The terms we choose, or the terms we are offered, behave as containers for our ideas, necessarily shaping and determining the form of what it is we think, or think we think. Our arguments about cultural appropriation, for example, cannot help but be heavily influenced by the term itself. Yet we treat those two carefully chosen words as if they were elemental, neutral in themselves, handed down from the heavens, when of course they are only, like all language, a verbal container, which, like all such containers, allows the emergence of certain ideas while limiting the possibilities of others. What would our debates about fiction look like, I sometimes wonder, if our preferred verbal container for the phenomenon of writing about others was not cultural appropriation, but rather interpersonal voyeurism or profound other fascination, or even cross-epidermal reanimation. Our discussions would still be vibrant, perhaps even still furious, but I'm certain they would not be the same. Aren't we a little too passive in the face of inherited concepts? We allow them to think for us and to stand as place markers when we can't be bothered to think. So yeah, increasingly, this is something that's on my mind all the time when I'm writing fiction, when I'm even writing comments on social media, when I'm trying to mediate between people. I'm always sort of thinking of the hegemony of language and how we sort of need to be, we need to be more actively inventing language, and not just those of us who are professional writers, but all of us. We need to be inventing language. We need to be more actively involved in this process. I don't know if I have much time left, but I wanted to, one of the things last night when I was talking about, when I was thinking about, this event, and I suppose I must have gone to bed thinking about this event, because I dreamt about it in the night, except it was totally, as dreams are, a very surreal version of this event. And in the surreal version of this event, I had been asked to read out a speech by a US president, and it was not Trump. It's just a fictional US president. In fact, in the dream, didn't even have a name. It was like some historical, some famous US president, let's just say. And I had this speech, and I had to read it aloud on Zoom. And in the dream, I found myself constantly correcting my accent because I did not want to read this out in an American accent. So I said the word can't and then corrected myself to can't in the dream. And I kept doing this throughout the speech. And when I woke up, I thought, gosh, what was that dream all about? And it occurred to me, yeah, it's again about this this fear that I have that we're losing. All of the speakers spoke about how we're losing actual languages as well, and that's an urgent and real thing. But we're also losing English in a way. I feel we're losing our right to invent English for ourselves. And because I write in English, maybe that's more present in my mind than the loss of, the very also perhaps more important, or at least equally important, loss of all these indigenous languages. I suppose I'll end soon. The only thing I wanted to quickly add is that one thing that's happened to me during this pandemic, because I've had more time, I suppose, and because I've been, we've all been much less social, we've all been stuck at home. And so for the first time in my life, I've decided I had the time to actually learn to read and write Tamil. And I had looked, for this before, earlier in my life, and never really found someone who could teach me online. But I think there's just more and more stuff now during the pandemic, and more people who are looking for it, and people who are looking to fulfill that need, to provide that service. While I was looking for a teacher, I thought about this whole, I suppose, evolution of my family from, 2 generations ago. People who really did not speak any other language, people who really only spoke Tamil. And within, 2-3 generations, we have, my kids, I can say the only word they know in Tamil is probably rasam, a food word. They know a few food words, I suppose. And it's such a fast journey, right? Such a fast loss of language. And I was thinking about that when a few of the other speakers were saying that, we were talking about Malaysia and the linguistic landscape of Malaysia. And I've thought a lot about why it is that my family lost the Tamil language. And I don't think that I can blame it entirely on post-colonial Malaysia, although I think the post-colonial landscape of Malaysia has played a role. I think it begins with immigration, with my great-grandparents, I suppose, realizing that they had to prioritize the colonial language to get by, to get ahead in life. So yeah, they they, you know, emphasized English, even if they themselves were speaking Tamil at home with their kids. English was really emphasized as the language of education. So it began there with my parents on both sides, you know, both my parents thinking of English as the language of education, I think. And then I think I do want to end by saying that, you know, even though several of the speakers spoke about Malaysia as a multicultural and multilingual space, I myself did not experience the public space in Malaysia in that way, because unlike Singapore, you know, Malaysian, the language of Malaysian government is very much Bahasa Malaysia. You know, it's, yes, we have vernacular schools, but my parents didn't send me to such a school because facilities in Tamil schools are famously appalling. And so, you know, it was never a real choice for us. We were all sent to Malaysian, to you know, regular national schools. So then comes the question of why, in our case, in the case of me and my siblings, we did not even attend those Saturday morning Tamil classes that were available. You could go to these. That's important to point out. It's like I said, I'm not going to 100% blame the Malaysian government, but we chose not to do that. And I think our choice for all three of us has to do with the place of the Tamil language in Malaysia, the status of the Tamil language, that we were not able to be proud of it, that we were not able to celebrate it in any way, because we didn't see it being celebrated outside our home, really. We saw it, I mean, if at all, it was either erased, it was either absent, or it was sort of comic relief, to be honest. It was kind of mocked. It was kind of not really, you know, and it took me decades, I think decades and also distance being outside Malaysia to realize that actually it's kind of cool language. It's one of the world's oldest classical languages. Everybody else, all these white people talk about it as a beautiful language. Hey, maybe it is a beautiful language. So, you know, many, many decades later, I've decided, yeah, to find a teacher in Chennai and to study Tamil with her. And she's very patient with me, although she also finds, you know, my version of Tamil quite hilarious. But yeah, so that's my journey with my so-called mother tongue.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you. I think you've highlighted quite a bit of the conflicts, the challenges, and I think your personal relationship with both the mother tongue and, you know, English. And I think, you know, towards the end, you were talking about how your relationship and your connection to the Tamil language, you know, kind of changed. It has moved. It's transitioned from one place to another. And I think that's rather interesting to see that sort of, I would say, growth in a sense. The other thing is, earlier on in Prof. Zawawi's speech, he talks about how expression and vitality of language is not just through talking or speaking, but there's also a performative element in all of this. So Prof. Joseph, as an expert practitioner of dance and its many wonders, can you please share with us your perspective on how dance embodies within it, you know, a whole universe of language, and how its role fits in with the pandemic at play? Prof. Joseph?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Yes, so pandemic and the language of dance. I'll begin by quoting Martha Graham, who said that when the body says what the words cannot. And this really embodies why and how dancers respond and create movement. And it is all about communication with each other, communication with the choreographers, and communication with the audiences. In the pandemic, we have had to find new ways to communicate with our audiences. And this has been really a huge challenge that has been taken up by the arts community all over the world. And how do we do this? And what do we do? I'd like to highlight a few examples of what I've been personally involved with in the last 2 years. Online projects, the example I will give is from the Ask Dance company in Malaysia. Screen Dance is also by them. and the dance and motion capture or mocap project by Zelia Tan, and she is from Hong Kong. So I'd like to sort of move into showing you my screen. Can you see this screen? Which is looking at, the Preserving Our National Culture screen. Yeah, and this is a project that was initiated because of the pandemic, and because I passionately feel that I must continue to try to teach as many Malaysians and people beyond Malaysia about Malaysian dance. So it's a 10-year-old project, and we have taught more than 20,000 people actually Malaysian dance, preserving our national culture. But this is the first time that we moved it online, and we prepared a virtual dance course, and the dancers really worked wonders with this, and how they dance from home. We have video assessments. We have finally a certification that's also approved by the Ministry of Culture. So very, very exciting, very time consuming, something that we spent a lot of time working on. I'd like to also show you a project that we did with the help of the Cendana grant, the Cendana Fund. And we created a video project that I feel very passionate about. And it is a project that the dancers worked on during the pandemic. And of course, I will be struggling to look for it right now, but they're in there somewhere. And let me see whether I can look for it. What is it called? Yeah, Joseph, my memory fails me. Yeah.
No worries.
Alzheimer's moment here for me, you know. I can't even remember the title of the thing I worked on. But if I find it, I'll show it to you, you know. And if it's called Hymns of the Abandoned, that's what it's called. And it was a project that we worked on, a dance film that we worked on. Took a lot of difficulty in creating this, but eventually we got it done, and there we go, Joey boy, well done. Can you see this?
No, Prof.
You're watching it, right?
No, not yet.
Okay, so
I can't see the screen.
Hang on a second. Hold on. Very challenging, huh? So maybe I should have gone the Shamini and Preeta way. Okay. So
how exactly would you go the Shamini and Preeta way with a dance performance? You can't read out.
Right. So hang on, yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll just abandon that as well. So am I back on screen now? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So I will continue by showing, I wish I could share that with you because I think there was an important work to do. But I'll move on to motion capture, and this is what we did during the pandemic here in Hong Kong, because we had a dance artist. She's a graduate of the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts, a professional dancer with the City Contemporary Dance Company in Hong Kong. And she really researched in depth virtual reality and the creation of dance using virtual reality and augmented reality. So these are two projects that she worked on remotely. So they were international projects. And we talked about how international projects become more accessible in these times, and it saves time with travel and stuff like that, right? So this is one thing. And then personally, I've actually spent a little bit more time writing. I was involved in two very important, well, important for me, projects, Empower the Arts and Animate Communities. And I talked about the online project that Us Dance Company did in Malaysia, and also teaching online here in Hong Kong. And for the first time, looking at how we were all forced to teach online and deliver classes online here. So this is something that I have done for myself as a professional in the education. Personally, I focused on self-development. I focused on quietening my mind, connecting with family and friends that are away from me, and travel from Hong Kong is so difficult. So I think that has been important personally, enriching me personally. That's it for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
I think it's very interesting. You've just given us a very broad scope, of how art, dance, music, literature, I think it truly epitomizes what language is all about, and its beauty is to be admired. The ability of its creator to shape these art forms to fulfill the various needs of mankind, especially in a time like this, I think certainly can remind us sometimes of who we are and give us some sense of hope and belief in the future. So I would like to take this question. This question was in the chat box. And let's see who wants to have a go at it. The question is, I would like to know the views of the speakers on the impact of the pandemic on communities who use sign language for communication. Anyone in the panel? Do you think this is something you would like to comment on?
Well, I think what's interesting about it is that when this sort of paradigm shift happens, like COVID, so many groups get left behind. Not, with any sort of social intent, but because we're all basically trying to survive and we find methods that work for what is basically the majority, because it's sort of urgent and immediate, and you immediately start marginalizing people, whether you're marginalizing people on the internet because they don't have access or because their languages are not represented on the internet, or whether you're marginalizing people who require that to be able to see your mouth in order to lip read. These sorts of things, it's really quite, well, we're excluding the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions from the right to survive right now as we open up society without sort of having means in place to sort of protect our most vulnerable. So it is quite scary and shocking how quickly societies that have expanded to be inclusive over time, over generations, shut down and forget anyone who's not the absolute mainstream version of humanity, who is catered to first. In the context of sign language, what I have seen is that, people have invented masks with sort of clear panels so that people who need to sort of lip read can see through them, and such like. But the reality, of course, is we're not all wearing masks with windows. And so I think we're going to discover more and more that we have accidentally and over time on purpose effectively marginalized entire groups of people that we won't even know their sort of definitional boundaries, for quite a long time. And it is a frightening sort of mirror to hold up to ourselves as a society, I think.
Thank you, Shamini, for that. Sorry, Prof. Imtiaz, I see your hands are up. Yes, please.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to respond to some of the things that Shamini and Preeta, particularly with the mother language. You see, the spirit of 21st February has nothing to do with whether you're speaking the language of your mother. It has to do with domination and politics, whether you are not allowed to speak a language. That's the point. You're speaking English is fine, but if there's a system which would tell you, no, you can't speak even that English wherever you are, then the spirit of 21st February comes. So 21st February is not the point, and this should be clarified because a lot of people make the same argument, okay, like a lot of us, we speak, we're bilingual, we think bilingual, we dream bilingual. So the point is whether there's a domination and politics involved. So what happened back in 1952 was the domination of a particular that you can't speak Bangla, or Bangla would not be the national languages, one of the national languages. So that's the spirit. If we can focus on that and then celebrate all the languages. So what would be the mother language now? Mother in a much more in a cosmic manner, and then invite all the languages, irrespective of what, whether the number is 20 or number is 2 million, doesn't matter. A person should have the right to speak whatever he or she wants. That's the spirit of 21st February. So I was just thinking that it's not just, it's fine that you're not speaking your mother language, whether it's Tamil or Sinhalese or any other language, doesn't matter at all. So long you're speaking your mind and so long you're free to express, that would be the mother that you have in you. I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I think you make all of us feel just a little better about ourselves, me included. So do we have any other questions for the panel? No? Does the panel want? Yeah.
Can I just jump in and say that
yes,
I
please, Shamini.
agree with Prof. Imtiaz there. I mean, I may not be able to speak any of my mother tongues, but if I was in a situation where someone was telling me that I couldn't speak it, I would react badly. And I might even go as far as Preeta and try and learn it in order to sort of defend my right to speak it. So yes, they're two completely different things here. There's the imposition of a language on us, which I think, is unacceptable on any level. And to some extent in Malaysia, there's a creeping imposition of language on us. And it's interesting that when it happens suddenly, as happened in Bangladesh, you speak up and you stand up and you refuse. But when it is a process over decades, you find yourself having lost your mother tongue, never spotting the moment when you needed to stand up and defend it. So I think many of us Malaysians who have lost our mother tongues were immersed in a process that has led to this outcome when we might have perhaps stood a bit more, I'd like to think maybe been braver about defending our rights to language as Bangladesh was when the same occurrence happened. And what Preeta was saying, that now we're all learning how to speak American and the imposition is subtle, but it's pretty overwhelming. And it's what I always think, right? I sometimes wish there's a moment and someone tells me when it is, so I know how to stand up and when to stand up, because otherwise I find I've lost the fight before I knew I was in one. And I'd love to hear panel tell me, when I need to put my foot down, because.
Yeah, I'll jump in as well, just to add that, I also feel that, obviously between genocide or actually, banning a language or telling children that they can't speak that language in school, between that extreme and, inclusion, full inclusion, there's a whole spectrum. And I think that, where Malaysia is with sort of like, what should we call it? Like just a lack of visibility or a lack of inclusion is somewhere, in the middle, or who knows, I don't want to specify what point it is on that spectrum, but there is a whole spectrum. And I do feel that, that there isn't sort of full linguistic inclusion in Malaysia either. I mean, take, Singapore as a neighboring example. I mean, Singapore has plenty of its own problems with race and racial dynamics, but the visibility of minority languages is much greater, I think, in Singapore than in Malaysia. That's one thing that I think it's a simple fact that when you go out in Malaysia, you don't, come across all of even the major minority languages, we can say. You don't see things in Bahasa Malaysia and, Chinese and Tamil, and let alone, other indigenous languages.
I think I want to just share that I studied in Malaysia and University Malaya as well. So, 20 over years, whatever number of years of education in Malaysia. And I became very, the first language I spoke was Malayalam, because my parents are Malayali and we lived in a very Malayali neighborhood in Central Pasar. So I'm very proud of my neighborhood and my villagers there that came from the same village in India, so it's wonderful. And I still am in contact with them, but as my parents, passed away, I don't speak Malayalam anymore. And my siblings are all, and my nephews and nieces all intermarried, and, so it just wasn't viable anymore. But I became very aware of like Tamil, more than Malayalam, of course, in university, because they actually had a Tamil language society, and all the Indians belonged to the Tamil language society. So by virtue of being Indian, I was a part of the Tamil language society, but all I was interested in was dancing. So, we just danced to all the wonderful Tamil songs and, the Hindi music and so on. So I don't mean to be flippant about it, but it's interesting that my awareness of minority languages, at least of Tamil, became much more heightened in a Malaysian university. So I did feel a little bit of an outcast because I didn't speak Tamil that well. I speak it actually better now than before. Living in Hong Kong, trying to learn Cantonese, which is rubbish, and so it's all just a big mess. So yeah, I just thought I'll throw that into that conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted
go ahead, Shamini.
This description of Singapore as some sort of mother tongue utopia, I feel that I should perhaps introduce an alternative viewpoint, which is, first of all, the range of mother tongues offered is narrow. For instance, the Chinese mother tongue is Mandarin, which, as Prof. Zawawi said earlier, is all about business and communication and ingratiating oneself with the mainland, then preserving the mother tongue, as has been discussed in the context that this panel has discussed it. That's one. And two, in a very traditional Singaporean style, they've managed to make the learning of the mother tongue an extremely oppressive part of the school system. Because by demanding that kids be bilingual while having an extensive and aggressive education system, the pressure on kids, we're talking about the imposition of language and, genocide at one horrific end of the spectrum and our language disappearing in Malaysia at one end, imposition through education in order to have economic benefits might well fall somewhere on that spectrum. And that is how I see, Singapore's sort of adoption of mother tongue policy. So, it's not all dancing around the coconut tree and speaking Tamil.
No, I'm aware of that. I literally meant just the visual visibility, actually.
Yes, fair enough.
What you see, which I think is a very, it's not winning the battle by any means. It's such a small thing, but small things matter, I think. And
representation is always important, as we know, trying to write it.
I was thinking also of, people in my mother's generation, for example, who, if I don't know if it's even relevant anymore because they're getting old and eventually they won't be around anymore. They will die out. But, in my mother's case, she was educated in missionary schools, so in English, and then Tamil was the home language. And now, gradually after independence, she basically found herself in a country where she didn't speak the language of, she didn't know the language of government communication, basically. And I think it would have been different for her had she, again, she's, representative, I think, of a very tiny minority, but had she retrained, for example, to be able to work in government service, had she continued teaching, she would have, like some of my other relatives, been able to speak a standard of Malay where when she goes out in the world to places like a hospital or a government department, she wouldn't be as lost as she is now. So I think there's a small number of people, very old now, who do have this experience of actually being sort of marooned within what is technically their own country. They can't, for example, my mother needs to bring someone with her to go to hospital because, as she says, everything is in Malay. I can't speak Malay. I mean, it's a bit silly on the one hand, and I do get impatient with her that, she's had all this time to learn it and she hasn't learned it. But on the other hand, I also think, well, gosh, there is, this was never really dealt with in any adequate way or, in any way beyond, well, bringing someone in your family who was educated in Malay with you. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think the second part of the discussion, I think this was nice. Okay, it's informal, and I think we heard some of your, it's emotional. I can see that the relationship we have with our mother tongues, it's an emotional one. It's personal, and all of us, we're trying to find our way, right? And I think Prof. Imtiaz came in nicely, and just kind of given us a little bit more perspective on the issue. So, it'll be great if you can just take this offline, because I think this is a really good discussion. But I just want to say a big thank you to, Prof. Zawawi, Prof. Sorry, the names are not coming. Prof. Joseph, Dr. Nung Hatai, Prof. Amina, Shamini, and Preeta. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I hope everybody here had a good time as well. And I hope, it shed some light on and mother languages and all. So Judith, I'll give this back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. We would like to thank all our discussants, Professor Dr. Amina Mohsen, Professor Dr. Joseph Gonzalez, Dr. Nung Hatai Rangpun Simrit, Ms. Preeta Samarasan, and Ms. Sharmini Flint for a truly enlightening and interesting discussion session. We would also like to appreciate Dr. Kalaiwani Rajendra, Senior Lecturer in School of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Taylor's University, for moderating the session. We do hope the event thus far has been eye-opening, valuable, and food for thought for all. As a prelude to our Day 2 session tomorrow, Cultural Extravaganza, Pandemic and Language, our final presentation this evening is a contemporary piece titled Lati, choreographed by Zafir Muzani from the Bachelor of Performing Arts, Taylor's University. Lati, derived from the ancient Javanese language, refers to the tongue. This presentation showcases a fusion of Indonesian and urban influences. Lati was conceived, performed, and produced in the home of the choreographer during the movement control order as an artistic response to the pandemic and the continuity of the arts during these challenging times. Here is Lati.
I was born a fool, broken
As we are about to draw to a close, I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Khurshid Khastagir, Minister and Deputy High Commissioner, Bangladesh High Commission, Malaysia, to convey the vote of thanks. Sir, the platform is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished panelists, and dear audience, good evening. First of all, I would like to thank the distinguished audience who joined us through the virtual means, whether Zoom platform or the live streaming on social media platform like the Facebook. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude and sincere thanks to our esteemed dignitary speakers, namely His Excellency Dr. A.K. Abdul Momen MP, Honorable Foreign Minister of Bangladesh, Her Excellency Umna Mamun, Honorable Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage of Maldives, Mr. Shigeru Aogi, Director for the UNESCO Asia Pacific Regional Bureau for Education, Dr. Rashid Mustafa Sarwar, UNICEF representative to Malaysia and special representative to Brunei Darussalam for their important and inspiring messages on the language and pandemic, the theme of the day. I take this opportunity to express sincere thanks to His Excellency MD Ghulam Sarwar, Bangladesh High Commissioner to Malaysia, Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, Director of the Center for Genocide Studies, Dhaka University, Professor Dr. Nithayantan Ari Raghavan, Executive Dean, Faculty of Science, Social Sciences and Leisure Management, Taylor's University, for their respective welcome addresses. I thank the esteemed keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Wan Zahawi Ibrahim, and the distinguished panelists, Dr. Nugal Thai, Ms. Shamini Flint, Ms. Prita Samarsan, Professor Joseph Gonzalez, and Professor Amina Mohsin for accepting our invitation, and more importantly, for their important, insightful deliberations on today's topic. The discussions were truly enlightening. A big thank you to you all. Let's give a big applause to all of them. I especially thank Professor Imtiaz Ahmed and Dr. Anindita Dasgupta for their outstanding leadership and active contributions throughout the organizing period for successful organization of this event. I would also like to mention with special thanks organizing team led by Ms. Prema Bonduadwari and Ms. Noor Shahila from Taylor's University, Mr. Ruhul Amin and Ms. Rehana Parveen from the Bangladesh High Commission in Kuala Lumpur, and Mr. F.M. Arafat from the Center of Genocide Studies, Dhaka University, for their tireless effort to organize and coordinate all the activities leading to today's event. Master of Ceremony, Ms. Judith Nesamalar Tharugamaras and Ms. Hazira Khanam, we thank you for your masterful running of the event. I also thank the visual and technical team, Mr. Anji and Hui, Mr. Huaman, Ms. Anajan, Mr. Park Bew De Silva, Ms. Januki Raghavan, Ms. Rajalakshmi Ganesan, Ms. Sadia, Ms. Raisa, Mr. Humayun Kabir, and Mr. Arifin Mizan. Finally, I take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues at the High Commission for their continued and valuable support throughout the organizing period. Please be reminded that friendly countries like Malaysia, India, Nepal, Maldives, Japan, Thailand, Russian Federation, Sri Lanka, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan will join Bangladesh for tomorrow's performing arts-based cultural event. Don't miss it. Thank you all once again for joining us, and long live the spirit of International Mother Language Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Khorshad A. Kastagi. Thank you all once again for joining us today. Please do remember to join us tomorrow for our second part of the event, Cultural Extravaganza, Pandemic and Language. A program filled with cultural songs, dances, and many other performances from various countries.
That is all from us. Stay strong, stay safe, and have a good day ahead. Good evening,
See you all
everyone.
tomorrow. Bye.
See you.
Bye.